Chapter 37. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything. Zhuxiaoyan said gently, my cultivation is still too shallow, so it's difficult for me to block your greedy wolf heart in an instant and escape with a flash of thought. However, I've been talking nonsense with you for so long, if I still can't make preparations to intercept you, then it's my problem. After hearing this, the pink-clothed girl's face changed again, and a person's name suddenly appeared in her heart. You are the Phoenix City's spiritual goddess? Zhuxiaoyan still smiled, you know a lot of things, you can even say my name. The pink-clothed girl's face was pale, aren't you about to break through? Why are you still? If it were any other time, in my current state, I really shouldn't meddle in other people's business. At most, I would just drive you away. Zhuxiaoyan sighed softly, but the situation now is different. You bullied my dog, how can I let you go? The young girl cried out, feeling wrong to the extreme. When did I bully your dog? I like dogs the most, but since I came to Phoenix City, not to mention your dog, I haven't even seen a stray dog. Zhuxiaoduo was so angry that he stuck out his tongue. This is my dog, but he obviously doesn't like you, and he doesn't want you to like him. Zhuxiaoyan smiled sweetly and looked at Zhuxiaoduo. Zhuxiaoduo was angry but didn't dare to say anything. The girl was stunned for a while, and suddenly burst into a burst of hysterical laughter. It's rumored that the spiritual goddess is pure and untainted. Who would have thought that she actually likes this? Ha ha ha, raising a little puppy at home? Not bad, not bad, this hobby really makes me admire you, I admire you so much. Ha ha ha. I understand, with the name of saint, with a lustful heart, a body that looks holy but is actually a slut's body, it's not good to hold back your overflowing lust, right? Why, the dignified spiritual goddess can't help but want a man to constantly comfort your thirsty body in the end. Ha ha ha. The pink-clothed girl's originally pretty face had turned completely ferocious. She kept spitting out extremely vicious and filthy words. Zhuxiaoyan smiled coldly. I know you're trying to provoke me with your words, hoping that I'll be angry and reveal a flaw so that you can escape. But I won't be angry at all. Do you know why? Because I've never bothered to get angry with a dead person. It's too pointless. You bullied my family's dog. This is already an unforgivable crime. Prepare to be on your way. Before her voice had faded away, Zhuxiaoyan's white clothes suddenly fluttered, and she appeared above the pink-clothed girl in a trance. She stretched out her white and tender hand, and a slender sword suddenly appeared in her palm. With just a flick of his wrist, the originally dim alley was instantly filled with thousands of sword lights. Like a meteor falling to the earth, the Milky Way poured down towards the pink-clothed girl. Wait! Why don't you ask for my name? The pink-clothed girl cried in despair. My sect won't let you go. Your greedy wolf shaman sect belongs to the Umno Alliance. You're destined to be the biggest enemy of our astral souls. How can we let you go? Zhuxiaoyan's voice was cold. Originally, I didn't want to make a move because I'm about to break through. But what you're doing today is seeking your own death. It has nothing to do with anyone. The sword lights poured down mercilessly. The cold sword lights were full of the intent of death. Dead? Zhuxiaoduo, who finally came to his senses, looked at the pink-clothed girl lying on the ground with a bloody hole in her throat. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty, and only felt his heart thumping wildly. Dead! Dead! Right in front of me, dead! Although he had seen many dead people in his dreams, a dream was a dream after all. Zhuxiaoduo's palms were sweating, and his heart was beating fast. He forced a calm expression on his face. I can't show it. Nian Nian killed the cat. I have to support her. Let's wait a little longer. Zhuxiaoyan held a long sword and stood in front of Zhuxiaoduo. She frowned and said, the Umno Alliance has many tricks up their sleeves. It's possible that they don't have a secret way to escape. Even if they use a corpse to resurrect, it's hard to say. She frowned and looked at the girl's corpse on the ground. She said softly, "What I'm most worried about is that this is just a clone. That's the best thing, but also the worst thing." Zhou Xiaoduo coughed and said, "I've heard someone say that there are two ways to determine whether an enemy is completely dead. The first is to cut off his head. If you're still worried after the first method is achieved, you can use the second method, which is to burn the target's body to ashes. You can always be at ease." Zhou Xiaoyan turned her head and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo in surprise. "Damn, you're good. This is the first time you've seen a dead person. A living person turned into a corpse in front of you, and you're not afraid at all. To be able to speak with such fervor and assurance, I really have a whole new level of respect for you. Truly, one day apart feels like 3 years." Zhou Xiaoduo gradually overcame his fear. He stopped looking at the girl's corpse and quickly changed the topic. He snorted and said, "1 day apart. At most, it's been less than half a day." Zhou Xiaoduo was silent for a while. He stared at the girl's corpse and said faintly, "Sister, you intervened in this matter. There should be a lot of consequences, right?" Zhou Xiaoyan was stunned. She said faintly, "It's just a small role in the UMNO alliance. It's not a big deal, and there shouldn't be any trouble." Zhou Xiaoduo said affirmatively, "But you were angry just now." "Very angry, dot." Zhou Xiaoyan snorted. "She scolded you too badly." Zhou Xiaoduo added, his eyes flickering. Zhou Xiaoyan snorted again. The words of the girl in pink just now could not be described as just unpleasant. For a young girl like Zhou Xiaoyan who had never experienced anything like this, it felt like her ears had been seriously polluted. It would be unexpected and unreasonable if she did not attack in anger. Zhou Xiaoyan had been very calm before, as if there were no emotional fluctuations. However, for Zhou Xiaoduo, who was very familiar with Zhou Xiaoyan, he could tell from some very subtle movements that the girl's anger had risen to an uncontrollable level. For example, her ears were a little red, and the fine hairs there were standing up. Another example was her neck had become deeper, and her perky buttocks had tightened. Cough, cough. These minor details were only confirmed by Zhou Xiaoduo after experiencing hundreds of battles. How could an ordinary outsider be able to notice the signs before being beaten up? Over the years, whenever Zhou Xiaoyan showed these signs, it was the best time for Zhou Xiaoduo to admit defeat. Over the years, there was not much pressure from his parents. However, there was a lot of pressure from Nian Nian Cat. Nian Nian Cat didn't just hit him because she was angry. She even grabbed him and ravaged him when she was happy. Zhou Xiaoduo thought a lot. Well, it's really a clone. Doggy, you're really lucky. Zhou Xiaoyan, who was also paying attention to the girl in pink's body, suddenly brightened. The broken body of the girl in pink on the ground started to melt and evaporate like snow under the sun. Zhou Xiaoyan picked up the greedy wolf's heart that had fallen on the ground with the tip of her sword. Then, she returned to the side of the girl's body. She seemed to be waiting for something. At this moment, the body's limbs had already evaporated. When the head started to evaporate, Zhou Xiaoyan tore open the clothes in front of the girl's chest. She reached out and took out another piece of jade that was exactly the same as the greedy wolf's heart. Zhou Xiaoduo, who was focused on this, could clearly see that the two pieces of jade were exactly the same. However, one was slightly concave while the other was slightly protruding. This meant that the two pieces of jade were created as one was yin and the other was yang. Zhou Xiaoyan did not hesitate. With a light click, the two pieces of jade were seamlessly combined into one. Then, Zhou Xiaoyan quickly placed it on the girl's forehead. The girl's head was originally dissipating bit by bit like her limbs. However, as the two pieces of jade were placed on her head, the rate of dissipation slowed down. A moment later, the originally still jade began to rotate violently, emitting a dazzling brilliance. After a short while, the jade stopped rotating and returned to silence. The girl's body also suddenly disappeared at this moment, as if it had turned into dust and no longer existed in this world. However, Zhou Xiaoduo's attention was completely diverted to the jade. He clearly saw that the moment the girl's body dissipated, there was a touch of blood in the jade. Zhou Xiaoyan waved her hand again. The jade flashed brilliantly and fell into Zhou Xiaoduo's arms. Although her jade hands moved continuously, from the beginning to the end, her hands did not really touch the jade. Throughout the process, she controlled the object with her qi. It was a wonderful skill. Zhou Xiaoyan's actions naturally had a deep meaning. The moment the jade entered Zhou Xiaoduo's arms and touched his skin, Zhou Xiaoduo only felt a surge of surging energy from the jade. It rushed into his body like a hot knife through butter. However, this power was simply too great, and there were simply too many of them. Nian nian. Zhou Xiaoduo only felt dizzy for a moment. Before he could finish his sentence, he fainted. Humph, puppy, your luck after becoming a martial warrior is really good. Zhou Xiaoyan, who had already expected this, said with a smile. She picked up Zhou Xiaoduo and disappeared in a flash. When Zhou Xiaoduo woke up and regained his consciousness, he only felt that his whole body was as light as a feather. It was as if he was about to fly. Zhou Xiaoduo thought that he had woken up from his sleep, so he wanted to sit up and move a little. However, when he thought about it, he was shocked to find that his whole body had floated up, and he even walked 2 steps in the air. Zhou Xiaoduo's mind was very sharp. He instantly felt that it was not a dream but reality. But this. He panicked and the true qi that was flowing through his body suddenly disappeared. How could he maintain his floating state? He suddenly fell to the ground with a bang. He was prostrating himself on the ground. He looked. Well, isn't this my house? My room? What's going on? It's so magical. My wife confiscated my pocket money. She knows that I'm angry, so she wants to treat me to a big meal tonight. Well, let's eat barbecue. My wife will pay. I only bring my mouth. This proves that my family's status is infinitely rising. In order to celebrate, I'm asking for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 38. Zhou Xiaoduo was suspicious. Instinctively, he picked up his glass and wanted to drink some water. Unexpectedly, there was a cracking sound, and the glass that had been with him for many years shattered. He was so shocked that he fell on the chair on his left. However, there was another cracking sound, and the chair was smashed into pieces. He sat on the floor. Oh my God! Zhou Xiaoduo groaned. Then, he said in surprise, Could it be that I have become a peerless master, and every move of mine has an inexplicable destructive power? At this moment, there was a faint sound from the bed. Zhou Xiaoduo turned his head and looked. He was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He saw Zhou Xiaoyan lying on his bed. She was so tired that she was on the verge of death. She was sleeping soundly. Zhou Xiaoduo subconsciously jumped back 2 steps and covered his mouth in shock, covering the scream that was about to come out of his mouth. What? What is going on? I don't think I did anything. Right? Zhou Xiaoduo checked his own condition first. Well, he didn't feel anything. Then, he looked at Zhou Xiaoyan. He found that Zhou Xiaoyan's face was pale, and her lips were dry and pale. She looked like a lamp that had run out of oil after a serious illness. He couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Although he still didn't understand what was going on, he still tried to control his body and ran out. He carefully picked up a cup, poured a big cup of cold water, and brought it into the room. Then, he sat on the bed slowly. He helped Zhou Xiaoyan up and let her lean on his shoulder. Then, he carefully took the cup of water and brought it to Zhou Xiaoyan's mouth. Zhou Xiaoyan's delicate body leaned on him softly. It was as if she was unconscious. She didn't respond at all. Zhou Xiaoduo finally fed Zhou Xiaoyan half a cup of water. When he saw that Zhou Xiaoyan's complexion was better, he was relieved. His heart was no longer in pain and panic. After he put Zhou Xiaoyan back on the bed, he suddenly remembered something. He quickly took out all the medium-grade astral soul's stones he had. He put one in Zhou Xiaoyan's right hand, one in her left hand, one in her chest, one in her dantian, and one in the soles of her feet. When he grabbed Zhou Xiaoyan's delicate feet and put the stone of astral souls on them, he could only pinch her feet and put them down. He muttered, "I didn't do it on purpose. Wait until I put them down properly. I'll inject them into your body." Ha ha ha. Zhou Xiaoyan's feet were scratched. She couldn't continue pretending to be unconscious. She couldn't help but laugh. She got up from the bed and said with a smile, "Doggy, why are you scratching my feet?" "I didn't." Zhou Xiaoduo instinctively defended himself. Then, he froze on the spot. After a while, he realized that he had been fooled. He should have been furious. Of course, he took advantage of the situation and said angrily, "What are you doing? Is it fun to pretend to be unconscious? Don't you know that you can scare people to death? You're already an adult. Why are you still so mischievous? Can't you be a little more mature?" Although he was angry, he didn't sound angry at all. Instead, it sounded like he was suddenly relieved. "Oh, that's great. That's great. Nian Mao is fine. That's great. Who pretended to be unconscious?" Zhou Xiaoyan was a little embarrassed at being caught in bed. Then, she became self-righteous and said angrily, "I was sleeping well. You woke me up and yelled at me. Is there any justice in this world?" Zhou Xiaoduo was truly enraged this time. "Slept well? You almost scared me to death just now. Do you know that? You're an adult. Why are you still so immature? You almost scared me." Halfway through, he snorted and said angrily, "Do you believe that I won't tell Mom and Dad tomorrow and let them beat you to death?" Zhou Xiaoyan moved closer to Zhou Xiaoduo. Her voice was tender and soft. "You haven't finished yet. What happened to you just now? Go on, go on." Zhou Xiaoduo said embarrassedly, "Bullshit. Tell me, what happened to you just now?" Zhou Xiaoyan snorted but didn't say anything. She turned over and lay down on Zhou Xiaoduo's bed. She sniffed the pillow and the quilt and said disdainfully, "Doggy, your bed stinks." Zhou Xiaoduo rushed to the bed angrily. "No matter how smelly it is, it's my business. No one invited you to sleep here. Come down quickly. Tell me what happened." Zhou Xiaoyan shrank into the bed and laughed. Guess. It was only at this moment that Zhou Xiaoduo's fear from the accident completely disappeared. His anger, however, had also turned into his strongest state. "Come over here." As he spoke, he threw himself forward. But the sudden increase of power in his body was far from the level that he could control. With a loud bang, he suddenly moved, dust filled the air. The bed collapsed. Zhou Xiaoyan fell to the ground along with the broken bedboard. The brother and sister looked at each other and shouted at the same time, "Oh no." They hurriedly cleaned up. But Zhou Changlu's scolding came from outside. "Zhou Xiaoduo. What time is it? What are you doing?" Zhou Xiaoyan pulled up the blanket at a speed that was faster than the naked eye could see, wrapping it around her body from head to toe. Only then did she roll over and hide in the mess on the bed. She did not move at all, and at first glance, one really could not see her delicate body. Then, she signaled Zhou Xiaoduo to deal with it. Zhou Xiaoduo cautiously moved closer to the door and said with a trembling voice, "Dad, it's okay, it's okay. Your son is gifted and his cultivation progress has been improving by leaps and bounds. Did I break through again? Maybe it's because I've improved too much that I couldn't control my strength properly. I broke a cup, collapsed a stool, and even the bed." Zhou Changlu's voice came from outside the door. "Ah! Even the bed collapsed. Is it okay? Open the door and let me see." Zhou Xiaoyan was shocked. The quilt covering her body trembled. Zhou Xiaoduo wanted to sew his mouth shut. His face was pale. "Dad, it's okay. It's really okay. It's a good thing that my cultivation has improved. It's a good thing that I couldn't control my power. It's already so late. If there's anything, we can talk about it tomorrow morning. You really don't understand martial arts. It's a small matter. Ugh. Zhou Changlu laughed outside the door. Then, he warned, then go to sleep. How is disturbing someone's sleep a small matter? Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Zhou Xiaoduo agreed repeatedly. He leaned his ear against the door and listened for a long time. He heard Zhou Changlu patter back to his room. After a long time, there was no sound. Then, he let out a long sigh of relief and patted his chest. I was scared to death. At this time, there was a long sigh of relief behind him. I was scared to death. He looked back and saw Zhou Xiaoyan trembling and sticking her head out of the cylinder. Her face was full of fear and her hair was messy. He left. Looking at Zhou Xiaoyan, Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly felt warm in his heart. In an instant, a very strange thought floated in his mind. He coughed and said, "Have you seen the special moment when a caterpillar sticks its head out of a cocoon?" Zhou Xiaoyan frowned. Have you seen a rice field eel? Zhou Xiaoduo said, "A head sneaking out of a hole." Zhou Xiaoduo, you're courting death. Zhou Xiaoyan's pretty face instantly turned red. She was about to explode, but she knew that she couldn't raise her voice in the current atmosphere. She suppressed her voice and roared. Courting death? If you dare to touch me, I'll immediately open the door and let my parents in. I'd like to see what you're going to do. Are we going to die together, or are you going to be more unlucky? Zhou Xiaoduo threatened. His face was flushed red and he didn't even try to hide it. She stuck her head out of the quilt and stared at Zhou Xiaoduo as if she didn't know him. Zhou Xiaoyan never dreamed that she would be threatened by this guy one day. Moreover, it was in such a special atmosphere. A fierce light slowly appeared in her eyes. Bastard! You know nothing about power. Zhou Xiaoduo looked calm. I know that your cultivation is profound and you're very powerful. You can control me in an instant. But I bet you can't even stop me from shouting. Why don't you try to touch me? Let's see who's going to have the upper hand. Zhou Xiaoyan was fuming with anger, but she really didn't dare to act rashly. Today's 3 was even better. Chapter 39. She guessed that Zhou Xiaoduo might be more afraid of letting her parents know about their current situation than she was. But more than that, she didn't want to and didn't dare to take the risk. What if her parents saw her in Xiaoduo's room? It was so late and she was still in his bed. What if the bed collapsed? Zhou Xiaoyan was so embarrassed that she felt hot all over. She didn't dare to take it seriously. Even though her strength was weak at the moment, she only needed a thought to control Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo's screams would most likely be stopped, but it was still risky. Zhou Xiaoduo finally had the upper hand for the first time, and it was an advantage that he hadn't had for a long time. He couldn't help but be in high spirits and complacent. He strode over and sat down in an ostentatious manner. Tell me, what is going on? Humph. Zhou Xiaoyan turned her head and ignored him angrily. Tell me, why did you make yourself look like a ghost? No, it should be neither human nor ghost. Zhou Xiaoduo said angrily, do you know that I was almost scared to death when I saw you just now? And you're still very weak, aren't you? Otherwise, you could easily control me and wouldn't be threatened by me. Tell me, what's going on? If you don't tell me, I'll. After hesitating for a while, he finally couldn't bear to say harsh words and said, I won't eat anything you give me in the future. I'll let you pick it up for free. But such a threat was not only powerless, it was also extremely weak. Although his expression and actions were fierce, in Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes, they were extremely cute. Therefore, Zhou Xiaoyan giggled and wiggled her way out of the blanket. She stretched her back and then released her body completely. She wrinkled her nose and said, so smelly. She turned her head and saw Zhou Xiaoduo staring at her in shock. His gaze fell on the skin on her waist that was exposed when she stretched. Zhou Xiaoyan immediately put down her hands and asked fiercely, "What are you looking at? What's there to see?" Zhou Xiaoduo's face, which was thicker than the city wall's corners, inexplicably heated up. He wanted to say, "Everything looks good," but he didn't dare to. He looked around and muttered, "What's so great about it? Hurry up, let's talk about something serious." Zhou Xiaoyan wanted to make a few more jokes, but after thinking about it, she suppressed it and said in a deep voice, "Doggy, do you know that you are in danger today? Very dangerous?" Zhou Xiaoduo said, "I do feel danger, but it's not fatal." "So? You're right. There's no danger to your life." Zhou Xiaoyan said, "You already have the spiritual sense of a martial artist. However, your understanding of the danger levels is still not enough. Although there is no immediate danger to your life, if you had taken over the greedy wolf's heart at that time, it would be hard to say what would happen in the future." Seeing that Zhou Xiaoduo was confused, she explained in detail, "That woman is from the greedy wolf witchcraft sect on the side of the Umno Alliance. As for the greedy wolf's heart, it has quite a history." Then she explained in detail, especially the degree of danger of the greedy wolf's heart. "Then why did you give me the greedy wolf's heart after you killed that witch?" Zhou Xiaoduo was puzzled. "Didn't I get it anyway? Just a simple souvenir? To teach me a lesson? Souvenir? What are you thinking?" Speaking of this, Zhou Xiaoyan's face turned cheerful and said, "Doggy, you're really lucky. It's an understatement to say that you've turned misfortune into blessings. You've really turned a crisis into a turnaround. You've really made a fortune. That witch of the greedy wolf witchcraft sect seemed to have been killed by me, but in fact, it was only a doppelganger that was annihilated. The so-called body was formed by a wisp of blood essence attached to the main pendant of the greedy wolf's heart. Do you understand now? Although the doppelganger could move freely like an ordinary person and even fight, its combat power was only 20 to 30% of the original body. After the woman died, she didn't leave anything behind, not even a drop of blood. This is the proof." Zhou Xiaoyan said, "In fact, she had already completed half of the greedy wolf witchcraft array. In other words, she had killed many people, and you were the last and the most important one. The greedy wolf's heart that she gave you was only half of the main pendant. She had no choice but to do this. Because of your kindness yesterday, you inadvertently destroyed her established plan, causing her to fail to complete her task. Instead, she suffered a backlash. She had to go through you to achieve her initial plan. At this time, the witch's doppelganger was killed by me, causing her wishful thinking to completely collapse. However, the power that she obtained from this plan was still there, and she hadn't had time to absorb it yet. All of it was left in the greedy wolf's heart. Once the two main pendants were combined, it would be a complete energy inheritance. Not only would it contain the power that she had absorbed with her witchcraft, but it would also contain 20% of the doppelganger's cultivation. It could be said that she had suffered a double loss. Besides killing the witch's doppelganger with my overwhelming cultivation, I also intercepted the doppelganger's power and sealed it in the greedy wolf's heart. Moreover, I sealed it before the doppelganger's head dissipated, causing most of the doppelganger's memories to remain there. In other words, although the main body knew that the doppelganger was destroyed, she didn't know who did it. So, there is no follow-up to this matter. As long as you don't say anything, no third party will know. Doggy, we have made a fortune in silence, he. Zhou Xiaoyan was probably really happy in her heart, and she talked a lot. Although she lowered her voice, Zhou Xiaoduo could still feel Zhou Xiaoyan's joy. It was a kind of high level of joy that made her almost jump up and cheer. It had been a long time since he had seen Zhou Xiaoyan in such a state of disregard for her image. "So, you gave the power of the greedy wolf's heart to me?" Zhou Xiaoduo's face darkened. "Why else would I say that you are lucky, a windfall from the sky?" Zhou Xiaoyan widened her round eyes. "After my refining, the power of the greedy wolf's heart has been transformed into the purest vital energy. It is easier to absorb and fuse with it than the purest power of astral souls. It is suitable for you now. Zhou Xiaoduo said angrily, refining? It's this refining that made you look like this, isn't it? Zhou Xiaoyan was stunned for a moment. She coughed awkwardly and explained, this greedy wolf's heart is like a gold mountain that fell from the sky. It takes some effort to excavate the gold mountain. I am just a little tired, and my foundation is not damaged. You have reaped all the benefits, and you still want to yell at me? Zhou Xiaoduo said with heartache, you're just a little tired. You're obviously exhausted. Refining that greedy wolf's heart with your own strength, if you use it on yourself, you'll definitely benefit more. But you transferred it to me, not only will there be no benefits, you'll also consume a lot of yuan qi. How can it be easy? I'd rather not have such benefits. Zhou Xiaoyan's smile disappeared, and a trace of tenderness appeared on her face. She quietly looked at Zhou Xiaoduo, and suddenly grinned. She said softly, Doggy, are you worried about me? Humph. Zhou Xiaoduo said embarrassedly, is it wrong for a brother to worry about his sister? Zhou Xiaoyan's smile became deeper and sweeter. Zhou Xiaoduo was right. If the energy of this jade pendant was absorbed by Zhou Xiaoyan herself, it would also be an opportunity, and the benefits she would gain would be much more than if she gave it to Zhou Xiaoduo. Just as Zhou Xiaoduo had predicted, it was not only difficult for Zhou Xiaoyan to transfer the refined energy to Zhou Xiaoduo, but there would also be a lot of unnecessary consumption in the process. It should be known that Zhou Xiaoduo's physical fitness was only at the martial warrior level, and it was impossible for him to withstand too much external energy. Therefore, for the whole night, Zhou Xiaoyan used her own cultivation strength to divide the energy into 4 parts, and worked hard to control the balance of the 4 parts. First, she let Zhou Xiaoduo absorb the first part, and then she eased his meridians, guided the energy into his dantian, and completed the cycle. After a few cycles, when all the external energy was turned into Zhou Xiaoduo's own energy, she would absorb the second part, and so on until all 4 parts of the energy were absorbed. The process sounded simple, but it was actually accompanied by great risks. If there was any carelessness, the jade pendant would explode, and then Zhou Xiaoyan would suffer from the backlash of the energy. What was worse was that Zhou Xiaoduo was in a coma during the whole process. He was completely unaware of it, so naturally, he could not cooperate. Everything had to be done by Zhou Xiaoyan. Even though she was a god's favored daughter and her strength had reached the transcendent realm, when all the energy was transferred to Zhou Xiaoduo's body and the operation was completed, Zhou Xiaoyan was exhausted and almost hurt her foundation. Therefore, when Zhou Xiaoduo woke up, he saw that Zhou Xiaoyan was not pretending to be miserable. She was really exhausted, so tired that she fell asleep. Why didn't you absorb it yourself? Looking at Zhou Xiaoyan's smiling face, Zhou Xiaoduo was so angry that his hair stood on end. He said angrily, you are now at the critical moment of breaking through the bottleneck. That thing has been refined by you, and it's the purest energy. Why don't you just absorb it yourself? Zhou Xiaoduo was so angry that he walked back and forth in the room. Did you think I was joking when I told you that you were in danger recently? You really piss me off. Do you know how dangerous you are? She forgot to ask for a recommendation vote. Chapter 40. Zhou Xiaoduo dashed towards her with bared fangs and brandished claws. He was furious. How could you let go of such a good opportunity? Give it to me. What are you giving it to me for? You. You're really pissing me off. Zhou Xiaoyan was stunned for a moment, and then her eyes became more and more watery. She reached out and touched Zhou Xiaoduo's face. Doggy. Zhou Xiaoduo was so angry that he pulled her hand away. He said angrily, you said that this thing contains 20 to 30% of the doppelganger's cultivation, and the power absorbed by the witchcraft. If you use it for yourself, you can break through in advance, or even silently. You wasted it on me and hurt your vitality. This is a golden mountain from heaven, a bullshit golden mountain. Zhou Xiaoduo stood up, and his face was extremely anxious. He pulled his hair and spun around 3 times. He growled in a low voice, Zhou Xiaoyan. Do you know how dangerous it is for you now? Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes became deep. She stared at Zhou Xiaoduo and said, "So you really know how to read people's faces?" Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. Zhou Xiaoyan said in a low voice, "Didn't you catch a thief that day? Then, you told the thief to avoid trouble in the east? Avoid death and prolong life." Zhou Xiaoduo said, "Yes, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Zhou Xiaoyan took a deep breath and said, "Do you know that the thief was the last target that the disciple of the Greedy Wolf sect chose? He was also the closed loop of the Greedy Wolf sect's plot. You ruined his theft and returned the wallet. The most direct result was that the Greedy Wolf's soul was not given out. It was because of this that the guy suffered a backlash and came to find you. Do you know? There were 10 people in the thief's gang, including the leader. Last night, except for the thief, the others were all dead." Zhou Xiaoduo felt his throat dry. He said, "All dead." Suddenly, he felt that human life was so cheap. But that thief didn't die. He was very obedient. Well, although I don't know if he was really obedient or if he was afraid of you, he followed the caravan to Antai City that afternoon and left Phoenix City. Now, this thief is still in Antai City. He's not dead. Zhou Xiaoyan stared coldly at Zhou Xiaoduo and asked uncertainly, "You? What you said about physiognomy, are you sure it's not nonsense?" Zhou Xiaoduo felt confused and murmured, "How do you know so clearly?" Zhou Xiaoyan said faintly, "The greedy wolf trap exploded in the wee hours of this morning. The 9 corpses involved in the case died in different places, but the way they died was exactly the same. We knew about it in the wee hours of this morning. Then, I remembered that you caught the thief because something was wrong at that time. I've been paying attention ever since you mentioned it. I feel like that woman is fishing. So, from what you said, I've been waiting for the greedy wolf trap to explode. Sure enough, those 9 people died mysteriously. No one knows the reason. But I know. To be safe, I secretly investigated this thief again. I found that he wasn't in the city. I investigated his direction and found that he had left Phoenix City. He went all the way east to Antai City. And he went all the way east because you instructed him. Then, early in the morning, I flew directly to Antai City and found this thief called Zhang Yuan. Well, Zhang Yuan was the thief who was beaten up by you, whose fortune was told by you, who was blackmailed by you, and who was then given directions by you. I asked this thief everything. It was exactly the same as what you said. As for Zhang Yuan, it was because of your guidance that he fled to Antai City, and thus avoided the calamity of death. And at that time, I was sure that this was the greedy wolf trap." Zhou Xiaoduo's mind flashed. He knew where that drop of cool spiritual liquid came from. So that's how it was. That thief. Because of my interference, his fate of certain death was changed. Zhang Yuan also knew about the death of the other people. He's now looking for a job in Antai City. He swore that he wouldn't steal again. And he asked me to convey his gratitude to you." Zhou Xiaoyan smiled gently. "He said that he has no ability and no money now, so he can't repay you. But he'll definitely repay you in the future." Zhou Xiaoduo nodded silently. So that's how it was. In this way, everything was strung together. Zhou Xiaoyan said, "So, after I came back, I've been following you. Because I know that the person who set up the greedy wolf trap will definitely find you. Because if she doesn't get rid of you, she won't be able to complete her plan. This is so complicated." Zhou Xiaoduo murmured. At this moment, he felt a chill run down his spine. Even his heart had turned cold. Cold to the core. Firstly, it was the strange means of the witchcraft sect. Secondly, it was the horror of the martial world. 9 people died just like that. Thirdly, and most importantly, Zhou Xiaoyan has been following me all this time. Then Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly began to feel frightened. At the same time, he felt a sense of pride. Nian Nian Cat is actually so amazing. Just from a casual sentence of mine, she could deduce so much. This level of meticulousness and clarity of mind is really admirable. But Zhou Xiaoyan obviously didn't think about other aspects now. Her heart was on Zhou Xiaoduo's physiognomy. You really know physiognomy? Or you guessed it? It's just a coincidence. Zhou Xiaoduo took a deep breath and lowered his voice. With an extremely serious, solemn tone, he said word by word, Sister Nian Nian, I really know physiognomy. And my attainment in physiognomy is quite high. It's so high that it's beyond your imagination. Then how high is it? For some reason, seeing Zhou Xiaoduo's serious expression, Zhou Xiaoyan felt like laughing. Although she didn't laugh out loud, her eyes were already curved into crescent moons. However, she didn't doubt Zhou Xiaoduo's words too much. If it was Zhang Yuan who gave pointers to the thief, it could be said that it was a casual judgment. If it was a coincidence, then it could be said that he had a clear understanding of her current situation and even said that she would break through the death calamity. It was an iron mouth and could do what others couldn't. At least in Zhou Xiaoyan's knowledge, there was no such mysterious physiognomy. It's very, very good. It's so good that it can see through a person's life and death at a glance. Zhou Xiaoduo said seriously, a glance can determine life and death, a word can change fortune and misfortune, a word can decide the fate of the universe. Really, what are you laughing at? Zhou Xiaoyan covered her mouth, trembling with laughter, and rolled around on the bed. Zhou Xiaoyan's cultivation was unfathomable, and her physical strength was extraordinary. Otherwise, she would be rolling around on the collapsed bed. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at his sister, whose image had changed, and was speechless. If it weren't for the fact that her father suddenly opened the door and came in, the girl would probably be squawking with laughter. Zhou Xiaoduo frowned and was a little angry. Originally, he was very excited to talk about physiognomy. He thought that he could finally explain his extraordinary ability, and then remind Zhou Xiaoyan to avoid the death calamity. At this moment, he even scolded himself for being stupid. Why didn't he think of this way earlier? As long as he dragged Sister Nian to have a physiognomy with him, he could verify his physiognomy skills, and then. However, this was just a thought. If Zhou Xiaoyan didn't want to and he forced her to go with him, he would probably fly a few rounds in the sky again. Can you be more serious? Zhou Xiaoduo was angry. Ho ho ho. Zhou Xiaoyan buried herself in the quilt, trying to suppress her laughter. She didn't dare to be loud, so she could only vent her laughter. Zhou Xiaoduo let out a long sigh. Oh God, oh God, oh God, who would teach this Xiaodiao a lesson? She was so angry that she could die. After a long time, Zhou Xiaoyan finally stopped laughing, but she was already out of breath, and there were still crystal tears in the corner of her eyes. She said, continue to brag. No, continue to talk, . At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo only felt a burst of dullness, as if he was chewing wax in his mouth. He looked at Zhou Xiaoyan helplessly and rolled his eyes a dozen times in a row. Originally, he wanted to brag, but at this moment, he didn't even have the slightest emotion. I know what you want to say, and I know the true meaning of your efforts to prove. Zhou Xiaoyan stopped laughing and said softly, you want to prove that you are really good at physiognomy, and that you are quite accomplished. You also saw through my physiognomy that I was about to break through. Most importantly, you also saw that I would be in danger. When I break through the bottleneck, there will be danger, a life and death disaster. So in the past few days, no matter what you said or did not say, you have been trying your best to remind me that when I break through, there will be danger, and that I must be very careful, very cautious. Zhou Xiaoyan's voice was very soft, and at the same time, it was accompanied by an indescribable sense of oppression. Yes. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded repeatedly like a chick pecking rice, almost breaking his neck. Yes, that's it. You know my good intentions, right? Zhou Xiaoyan narrowed her eyes and was in a daze. She murmured, Doggy, I believe you. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled with relief. Finally, someone was willing to admit his extraordinary physiognomy. But then he reacted and said anxiously, can you not call me Doggy? Zhou Xiaoyan didn't laugh, nor did she refute. She just said faintly, Xiao Duo, you boasted that your physiognomy is divine, and you can tell life and death with a glance. I believe you. But what did you see when you looked at my physiognomy? Zhua Xiaoduo was tongue-tied. Third watch, please recommend me. Chapter 41. Doggy, look at my face. Did you see it? Did you see that I'm in trouble? Or I'm going to die? Zhua Xiaoyan's faint voice sounded. Hearing Zhua Xiaoyan's question, Zhua Xiaoduo didn't know what to say for a moment. He just kept silent. Anyway, the situation must be extremely bad, right? Is that why you're so anxious? Is that why you're competing to show off? You're risking your life to train yourself, risking your life to cultivate. Zhua Xiaoyan sniffed and said, when you were in the martial disciple class, I went to see you. At that time, you would secretly cry and feel depressed. Although you also worked hard to cultivate, you were definitely not as desperate as you are now. Now, you go to school early. After you go, you silently practice your boxing and breathing. When you're in class, you start meditating immediately. In every class, others will naturally wake up after absorbing enough spiritual qi, but you're not like that. Even if you wake up, you have to absorb as much spiritual qi as possible. After class, you almost never go to the toilet or go out to play. You continue to cultivate in the classroom. Only in the afternoon, during the ranking battle, will you go out to fight. You challenge without any rest. If you win, you continue to fight. Even if you lose, you continue to fight. Everyone has seen how slippery you are and how hard-working you are. Do you know how incongruous it is when these two opposing traits appear in you at the same time? Zhua Xiaoyan murmured in a trance, Doggy, you're pushing yourself so hard and living so tirelessly. Is it because you want me to live or die? You don't want me to die, right? Zhua Xiaoduo was a little embarrassed. He felt as if his whole body had been stripped clean. Even his thoughts were completely exposed. He snorted with dissatisfaction and said, so what if I'm a little tired? You're my sister, my biological sister. How can I just watch you be in danger and ignore it? As long as I don't let you die, I'm willing to pay any price. Zhua Xiaoyan hugged her calves and sat on the bed. She murmured, so you really knew that I was going to die? Zhua Xiaoduo was stunned. You even clearly pointed out that in 2.5 months, the star weapon gold crystal. Zhua Xiaoyan's eyes were misty. She said, at that time, I felt that something was wrong. You couldn't have known about it, and no one could have told you. The circle I'm in is too far away from you. Zhua Xiaoduo took a deep breath and said, Sister Nian Nian, actually, I could tell that there was a problem and danger at the time. However, there is something I have to say first. Zhua Xiaoyan said, go ahead. Regarding your breakthrough, I was able to tell with a single glance. Furthermore, it was completely true that you would encounter a calamity at that time. Zhua Xiaoduo's eyes were solemn as he said, but when it comes to the danger of your life or certain death, that might not be the case. Oh? Zhua Xiaoyan looked at Zhua Xiaoduo doubtfully. In terms of physiognomy, there is a pure black aura lingering between your brows. This is the sign of a calamity, and there is no way to avoid it. Zhua Xiaoduo said word by word, but even the purest black aura has a saying. This black aura of yours is black, but it is scattered and not gathered. There is still a chance. For example, it's like summer. Dark clouds cover the sky. It's most likely going to rain, but it hasn't really rained yet. Do you understand what I mean? Zhua Xiaoyan pondered for a moment. At the critical juncture of your breakthrough, there will definitely be a calamity due to the interference of external forces. This is destined and unavoidable. But as long as we are able to protect ourselves and deal with it properly, we can disperse all the haze in the sky. Then, everything will be fine. This is the variable, which is also the way to seek fortune and avoid calamity. Zhua Xiaoyan frowned and pondered for a long time without saying a word. For example, although I can predict which day it will rain, I can't predict when the first raindrop will fall with my current attainment. I can't predict how heavy the rain will be either. In other words, I know that there will be a rain, but I can't determine whether it will be a light rain or a heavy rain. Perhaps a heavy rain will have a chance to hit the bad guys, but a light rain or a heavy rain will have relatively limited damage. Even if it is a heavy rain, having an umbrella in hand, wearing a raincoat, or even hiding in the house in advance is a good choice to seek fortune and avoid harm. Sister, you mentioned Zhang Yuan before. Because of my advice, he avoided death and prolonged life and escaped death. He was destined to die. So, I have the ability, as long as you listen to me. Zhou Xiaoduo said earnestly, Sister, my dear sister, do you understand now? Zhou Xiaoyan's starry eyes sparkled and she said, I understand, I understand. You are not only comforting me, but also telling me directly that I may not die. As long as I am on guard in advance and consider all possible situations, I will naturally be able to deal with it and turn misfortune into luck. And you will help me. As long as I listen to you, I can avoid it, right? Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes sparkled as if she had thought of something. Zhou Xiaoduo finally felt relieved and said with a smile, That's what I mean. Are you willing to leave me and my parents to die? No way. Besides, if you die, what will happen to me in the future? Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly became spirited and her starry eyes sparkled. What do you mean, what will happen to you in the future? Zhou Xiaoduo stuttered again. That is. Who will protect me in the future? Who will think for me? Who will pick up medicine for me? Who will beat me up? Who will bully me? This. That, am I right? Humph. Zhou Xiaoyan wrinkled her nose and said, That's not what you want to say. Zhou Xiaoduo snorted and said embarrassedly, You are not a bug in my stomach. You know what I am thinking. Zhou Xiaoyan became lively and said, You want to say that if I die, you won't be able to find a wife in the future, right? Hee hee. Zhou Xiaoduo was infuriated, Nonsense. You're talking nonsense. You're distorting the truth. I'm so handsome and elegant, how can I not find a wife? Now in school, many girls have written love letters to me. But I have thrown them all away. I didn't even open them. I didn't open any of them. I really didn't open any of them. Halfway through, he suddenly saw Zhou Xiaoyan's face suddenly darken, his eyes glinting fiercely, and his sharp canine teeth slowly showing. Zhou Xiaoduo immediately chose to follow his heart and change direction. He rushed towards the path of survival, leaving everyone behind. Once he was done, he couldn't stop. Zhou Xiaoyan's face became bright again. Zhou Xiaoduo was relieved. If Zhou Xiaoyan believed that she was going to die in this kind of disaster, she would have an irresistible thought in her mind. That would be the end of her. Fortunately, he managed to turn the situation around in time, and it became another kind of natural thing that was extremely auspicious. However, Zhou Xiaoyan's face was dark and gloomy. Her appearance of disaster did not disappear at all. The worry in Zhou Xiaoduo's heart increased instead of lessening. However, he didn't dare to show it on his face. Zhou Xiaoyan was an extremely meticulous girl. If she found out, she would definitely feel burdened. All his efforts today would go down the drain. You don't even know how to blush when you brag. Zhou Xiaoyan tilted her head and smiled. These few days, your female classmates have nothing but contempt for you. It's not like I didn't see it. At this point, he suddenly paused. Then her expression gradually became fierce. Although I didn't see any female classmates write you love letters, nor did I hear any female classmates say that they like you. I did hear something else. Zhou Xiaoduo's heart sank. He forced a smile and said, Sister Nian Nian, what time is it? Why don't we go to bed? We still have class tomorrow. You don't have to go to school for the time being. I have already asked Dad to help you take 3 days off. Zhou Xiaoyan's expression was matter-of-fact. 3 days off? Why? Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. Why? You suddenly absorbed so much pure elemental energy. Even if it's the purest form of energy from astral souls, it's still not something you can digest on your own. The loss of control you are showing now is only the most superficial abnormality. If you recklessly use your elemental energy, it will trigger the elemental energy hidden in your body and cause your body to explode. Zhuo Xiaoyan explained calmly, therefore, in the next 3 days, you must absorb all of these forces and submit to us. What? In other words, I'm actually a human bomb now. Who knows when I'll be gone with a poof? Zhuo Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. Limited by his experience, he really thought that his abnormality was limited to a temporary loss of control after a huge increase in power. He just had to move more to adapt. He didn't expect things to be so complicated. At least, it wasn't something he could resolve on his own. Do you understand now? You need 3 days off. In 3 days, I will help you catalyze the elemental energy hidden in your body. Zhuo Xiaoyan's face revealed a devilish smile. This will also cause you to have a very hard time in the next 3 days. Zhuo Xiaoduo was shocked. I can't resolve it myself. I heard that using external forces to boost one's cultivation will cause one's foundation to be unstable. Let me try it myself first. No, you can't. Do you think you can act recklessly in your current state? Zhuo Xiaoyan flatly refused. We didn't go home for dinner last night. I took you to absorb the elemental energy. Call Dad and tell him that you're eating outside with me. Ask Master to check your meridians while you're at it. Remember, don't expose yourself. Zhuo Xiaoyan warned. The recommendation votes were so pitiful. Chapter 42. And then? Zhuo Xiaoduo pulled a long face. He felt like he had been betrayed by this Nian cat without even knowing it. Then I told Dad that my master said Xiaoduo's aptitude was quite good. Of course, it was mainly because of me that he helped us to dredge your meridians. After that, he said he would train you for a few days to consolidate your cultivation. The deadline was naturally 3 days. Zhuo Xiaoyan's face was not red, and she was not panting. Dad happily agreed and promised to ask for leave for you. Although he did not have the contact of your current head teacher, he had already contacted teacher Hu Ruoyan and asked her to ask for leave for you. Ah. Then what happened? After that, I carried you back. Dad asked you what happened. I told him that your cultivation increased after dredging your meridians, and your body could not bear the burden, so you fell into a deep sleep. You would be fine after a good rest. Zhuo Xiaoyan said matter-of-factly, in summary, you have nowhere to go for the next 3 days. You can only stay by my side. Zhuo Xiaoduo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. You arranged for me to stay for the next 3 days? Zhuo Xiaoyan nodded confidently, of course. If I didn't arrange it like this, you wouldn't be able to get past Dad. Zhuo Xiaoduo suddenly felt that the world was dark, and the sun and the moon were dim. No, it should be that the sun and the moon had lost their colors for the next 3 days and 3 nights. I was really betrayed. Sister, my dear sister, your brother has become a human bomb. You won't beat me, right? Zhuo Xiaoduo asked in a trembling voice. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Xiaoyan laughed for a while, and then said, no, you are now a protected animal. How could you be beaten? I can't bear to beat you. Zhuo Xiaoduo said sadly, but I clearly feel that there is something wrong with your laughter. It is like a weasel that caught a chicken, or a cat that played with a mouse. Zhuo Xiaoyan ignored him and threw the 6 pieces of jade of astral souls to him. She then took out 2 pieces of jade of astral souls from her spatial ring, closed her eyes, and began to circulate her energy. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Zhuo Xiaoduo was dumbfounded as he watched the mid-tier jade of astral souls, which was enough for him to absorb for several days, change color at a speed visible to the naked eye in Zhuo Xiaoyan's hand. It changed from crystal clear at the beginning to dim and lose its luster. In the end, it turned into fine powder and no longer existed. The entire process did not even take 5 minutes. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Xiaoyan had exchanged 2 more pieces of jade of astral souls. She still held them in her palm and continued to operate her body to digest the energy of the jade of astral souls. As she continued to digest the jade of astral souls, her pale face slowly became rosy. Zhou Xiaoduo was dumbfounded for a long time as he watched Zhou Xiaoyan meditate. He finally saw the difference between himself and a high-level cultivator. Zhou Xiaoduo had to absorb the energy of the 2 pieces of mid-tier jade of astral souls. It would take at least 3 days for him to finish absorbing the energy. Even after he finished absorbing the energy, the jade of astral souls would only turn into 2 black stones and remain in the world. On the other hand, Zhou Xiaoyan had used less than 5 minutes to absorb the energy of the jade of astral souls into powder. The difference in efficiency between them was like heaven and earth. Zhou Xiaoyan absorbed 10 pieces of mid-tier jade of astral souls before she finally stopped. She sat on the bed and said, "Doggy, why are you standing there like a fool? Go and get me a bowl of water." Zhou Xiaoduo said, "If you're so good at it, you can just manipulate the air and a bowl of water will fly in through the window. Why do you still want me to go?" Just tell me if you want to go or not. I'll go." Zhou Xiaoyan took a deep breath and felt that she was no different from her usual self. She was in her best condition and couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. However, her expression didn't relax. Instead, it became serious. There were some things that she couldn't tell Xiaoduo, but how could it be that nothing was wrong? The Umno alliance was located outside the Sun-Moon Pass. The 2 sides were enemies. Now, the people of the Greedy Wolf Shaman sect had infiltrated Phoenix City, which was hundreds of thousands of miles away, to set up a trap. Zhou Xiaoyan couldn't help but shudder at the thought of what this represented. This matter was really serious. If Zhou Xiaoduo hadn't accidentally ruined the other party's plan and caused the other party to target Xiaoduo, the death of the 10 thieves wouldn't have attracted any attention at all. No one would even suspect that the Greedy Wolf's heart was an extraordinary object. Then the question was, how much had the other party infiltrated? What's more, it was certain that there were spies in Phoenix City. And the other party's spies were definitely not ordinary people. How should I investigate this? Zhou Xiaoyan muttered to herself. The Greedy Wolf's heart couldn't be mentioned by others unless the person came to retrieve the memory. I must tell Master about this matter tomorrow. She's experienced and knowledgeable. Maybe she has other ways. It's fine if only the Greedy Wolf comes. But if all the Greedy Wolves come, this matter will be serious. In another place far away. Back to one night ago. At the moment when the pink-clothed girl was killed, another girl who was in the middle of cultivation suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood without any warning. Then, she fell to the ground, unconscious. A scream came from outside. "Master, something went wrong with senior sister's cultivation. This is Qi deviation." People rushed over from all directions. After a long time, the girl finally woke up. Her eyes were confused and her face was pale. A black-clothed old woman stood beside her. "Xuani, what happened?" The girl named Xuani wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said weakly, "Master, my doppelganger should have been destroyed." "Your doppelganger was destroyed?" The black-clothed old woman frowned. "How many doppelganger did you send out this time?" "2. Mo Xuani said in a low voice. "One went east and one went west. The one that went east was destroyed." "The one that went east, where was it headed?" "The Central Plains, Guqi's territory. Our people were there to provide support. Everything was within the plan. Even if there were changes, how could there be no warning in advance? That's why it's strange." Mo Xuani took a deep breath, adjusted her breathing, and ate a few pills. Her spirit was slightly lifted, but her expression was solemn. Her doppelganger died inexplicably, and she only received a vague thought. Probably when she sent out the thought, it was intercepted by the person who killed her, so only a little vague content was left. If it wasn't for the fact that this almost obsessive thought was enough to affect her heart lake, she probably wouldn't have been able to send back even this little content. "I'm not a lonely widow whose parents are dead. Emo Shwani gasped for breath again, an inexplicable light flashing in her eyes. She suddenly looked up and asked, "Master, have you seen my parents?" The black-clothed old woman's eyes were indifferent. "Why are you suddenly asking this?" Disciple. Disciple's spirit was damaged this time, and I suddenly realized that life is short and lonely. Emo Shwani took a deep breath and said, "I inexplicably remembered that for so many years, I didn't even burn a stick of incense for my parents. I'm really unfilial." The black-clothed old woman said indifferently, "The dead are already gone, the mountain is long and the road is long. What's the point of traveling thousands of miles just for a stick of incense?" Emo Shwani was silent for a while, then asked in a low voice, "My parents, are they really dead?" The black-clothed old woman suddenly turned her head and asked in a gloomy voice, "Shwani, are you doubting me?" Disciple doesn't dare. Emo Shwani said in a low voice, "It's just that Disciple has a feeling that my parents are not dead." Feeling, feeling. The black-clothed old woman sneered, "Even now. I often feel that our ancestor is not dead." But Emo Shwani did not speak. "Don't think too much." The black-clothed old woman said coldly, "Your spirit is damaged this time, so don't cultivate for the time being. Focus on recuperating. With your spirit injured, it's inevitable that you will think too much. This is a big obstacle on the path of cultivation. Only with a clear mind and a clear spirit can you cultivate." "Yes, Master." Seeing that the black-clothed old woman was about to turn and leave, Emo Shwani suddenly asked, "Master, does our Umno Alliance have an expert in physiognomy?" Physiognomy? Physiognomy? The black-clothed old woman turned around and stared at her for a while, then said, "Why are you looking for such a deceptive thing?" Emo Shwani lowered her head, "I want to see." "No." The black-clothed old woman said indifferently, "The great competition of the 36 sects is about to begin. As a seed disciple of my ravenous wolf sect, you need to understand what you should do. You need to know what's important and what's urgent. Yes. You should meditate and recuperate." The black-clothed old woman waved her hand and several bottles of pills fell in front of Emo Shwani, then turned and left without saying anything. "Master, my clone." Emo Shwani said, "My clone died just like that, I suspect. There's a big problem over there. What do you want to do?" Disciple wants to go and take a look. After all, this matter involves the loss of a ravenous wolf's heart. Emo Shwani said, "In the ravenous wolf's heart, there's a part of my soul that needs to be recovered. This is something that I can't leave out." This time, the black-clothed old woman did not say anything. She stopped and thought for a while, then said, "It's very risky to go over there. I hope that the brothers who read this book can go to Chidian Chinese Network to support the original version. Thank you. Please recommend me." Chapter 43. But my soul is damaged. If I can't find the greedy wolf's heart and recover my lost memories, how can I perfect my Yuan spirit? Even this greedy wolf's soul cannot be cultivated to perfection. Emo Shwani bit her lower lip and said, "Master is wise. If I lack this, even if I participate in the competition, I won't have a high chance of winning. There's no harm in making a trip. Let your senior brother or martial uncle accompany you." The black-clothed old woman thought for a long time and finally said, "But you must remember, the main mission of this trip is to find the greedy wolf's heart. It has nothing to do with anything else. Shwani, you are the key. Even if all the spies we arranged over there are uprooted, even if our sect's thousands of years of preparations are destroyed in front of you, you are not allowed to act rashly." The black-clothed old woman said, "If you don't agree to this, don't go out." Disciple agrees. The black-clothed old woman snorted and said, "Master will give you 3 days to recover. Take the aura concealing pearl. And be careful of the greedy wolf's heart outside." "Yes." "When you are sure that you have recovered, then tell me when we are leaving." "Yes, Master." Emo Shwani secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but she was very concerned about the information sent back by the doppelganger. From the beginning to the end, she didn't have the slightest suspicion. Even though the doppelganger was killed a moment after sending back this message. Not a lonely widow whose parents are dead. Lonely. Mo Xuanyi bit her lip, only feeling that her heart was filled with this sentence. For a moment, thoughts surged in her mind, and all kinds of bitterness surged in her heart. Since I was young, I always thought that I was an orphan. Seeing other people with parents, their daughters being carried by their fathers, riding their fathers' necks and looking around, I was envious. I wanted this and that. I was very envious. If I had a father and a mother, they would also buy me things. They would also spoil me to the heavens. They would also let me ride a big horse. They would also but I didn't. My father and mother are already dead. They died in the hands of those evil astral souls. But after so long, the doppelganger sent back such a message. Not a lonely widow whose parents are dead. I must get to the bottom of this. In that case, I have to find a physiognomist first. It would be best if I could find the physiognomist who said that I didn't have the physiognomy of a widowed mother and father. This was the most urgent matter of this trip. I want to know what happened over there. Did they find out about my parents? Thinking of the words, "I found news about my parents," Mo Xuanyi's heart suddenly burned with passion. I really want to be hugged by my mother once. I really want to be hugged by my father once. Even if it was only once, the next morning. Zhou Xiaoduo woke up early. A moment later, Zhou Xiaoyan also came out of her room. She stretched her body exaggeratedly and said in a clear voice, "Doggy, let's go. Remember not to embarrass me." Zhou Xiaoduo stammered. Wu Yuding brought over some porridge and a plate of meat. You can go after breakfast. Doggy, eat more meat. When you go to your sister's place later, remember to be respectful and obedient. Don't be naughty. This is an opportunity that your sister fought so hard for you. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded like he was pounding garlic. He wanted to say that he wasn't a child anymore. She didn't need to remind him like this. In the end, he didn't dare to say it. Zhou Changlu ate with a straight face. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. When he was almost done, he said, "Xiaoyan, watch over him." Zhou Xiaoyan sat up straight and said respectfully, "Okay, Dad." Zhou Changlu nodded and didn't say anything else. He focused on eating. After breakfast, the siblings went on their way. The moment the door was gently closed, the sound of two people running like crazy could be heard, as well as the joy of having fun. Wu Yuding listened for a while and smiled bitterly. "Are you too strict with them? Look at how scared they are of you." Zhou Changlu rolled his eyes and said, "Mrs. Zhou, you are the one who is too strict with them. I don't care about them." Wu Yuding rolled her eyes and whispered, "What time did Xiaoyan stay in Xiaoduo's room last night?" Zhou Changlu didn't raise his head and said word by word, "Not yet 4:00. It was 3:49 minutes and 17 seconds. Wu Yuding frowned and said, "I went to Xiaoduo's room this morning. The bed collapsed, but there were no other signs. It should be fine." Zhou Changlu snorted and rolled his eyes. Wu Yuding said worriedly, "Actually, I'm not worried about them." "Not worried?" Zhou Changlu rolled his eyes again and put down his chopsticks. He wiped his mouth and said, "Xiaoduo can already cultivate." Wu Yuding stared at him. "What do you mean?" "I don't mean anything." Zhou Changlu said, "I just want to know what you mean." She cursed in her heart. "You're not worried about them? You didn't sleep last night. Do you think I don't know? Your ears are longer than a rabbit's. Do you think I don't know this morning? What do you mean there's nothing else? You're not worried? You're just fooling yourself. You're just lying to me. And I have to pretend to believe you." Wu Yuding was silent for a long time and said, "Don't forget to bring a bed back in the afternoon." Zhou Changlu nodded and put down his bowl. He got up and put on his coat. "Okay, I'm going to Astral Souls." "Okay." Wu Yuding nodded and cleared the table. When Zhou Changlu walked out of the door, she suddenly remembered something and chased him to the door. Bring a double bed back. Zhou Changlu was going down the stairs. When he heard this, he was instantly confused. He missed a step and almost fell down. He turned his head and looked at his wife in shock. What? What did you just say? Didn't you say Xiao Duo can cultivate? Wu Yuding said matter-of-factly, besides, the dog's small bed should have been changed a long time ago. It's too weak. Zhou Changlu was speechless. He waited for a while and made sure that his wife didn't have any other instructions. Then, he staggered away. It seemed that he had sprained his ankle just now. By the way, when you go to my master, you must remember not to expose our relationship. Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly reminded him. Zhou Xiaoduo said with a bitter face, Huh? I can't say that either. That's too difficult. You're Zhou Xiaoyan, and I'm Zhou Xiaoduo. Once I say my name, she will understand it clearly. What else do I have to say? How can I not expose our relationship? Zhou Xiaoyan coughed twice and said, It's okay. I'll try my best to keep you away from people. She paused and said, Actually, my master knows about you. It's just that my junior sister doesn't know about your existence. When did you have a junior sister? Didn't your master say that he had set his sights on you and wholeheartedly trained you as his successor? Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned and asked in surprise. Yes, that's another story. My junior sister is a female disciple that my master took in 5 years ago. Her name is Meng Qinyu. Zhou Xiaoyan said, she has an extraordinary background. She is the daughter of Meng Tianyue, the chairman of Meng Group in Phoenix City. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and said, a natural beauty. Isn't she beautiful? Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly became alert and said with a smile, she's quite beautiful. She's even more beautiful than me. It's just. She probably won't like you. Zhou Xiaoduo said indifferently, I won't think about those things until I reach Jinyuan. I don't care if a beauty likes me. He he. Zhou Xiaoyan said in high spirits, that's right. A real man doesn't have to worry about not having a wife. Right now, you should focus on your career and cultivation. Strength is the absolute truth. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at her suspiciously. He felt that Sister Nian had suddenly become more cheerful after hearing his words. She seemed to be radiant with joy. So I'm good at coaxing girls? Zhou Xiaoduo thought to himself. It was rare for him to feel unconfident. Xiaoduo, these 3 days are an opportunity for you. Zhou Xiaoyan stopped and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo seriously. She fixed his collar and said softly, no matter how hard it is, no matter how tired you are, you have to hold on. At the very least, I can tell you very clearly that in these 3 days, your sleep time shouldn't exceed 5 hours. Oh, I know. Now close your eyes. Okay. Whoosh. The two of them took off. Zhou Xiaoyan grabbed Zhou Xiaoduo by the back of his neck and carried him all the way to the sky. I saw many brothers asking for more chapters. It happened to be very smooth. I got up early in the morning, finished early, and posted. So please recommend me. There should be another chapter around 2 in the afternoon. The third chapter at 7 in the evening. Chapter 44. When Zhou Xiaoduo opened his eyes again, he found himself in the martial arts field that he had visited that night. There was still no one in sight. A strange yet familiar feeling rose in his heart. However, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't have any other thoughts in his mind. He was completely energized. Just as Sister Nian said, these 3 days would be an opportunity for him. The current field was so rich in spiritual qi that it made one's hair stand on end. It was not a place where ordinary people could come in and cultivate. Even if Zhou Xiaoyan brought him in, she would need her master's permission. This was a rare resource. In a trance, a beautiful woman in a palace dress and a short-haired girl suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xiaoduo. It was as if they were illusions. At least, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't understand how they got there. Both of them were as beautiful as flowers and as beautiful as fairies. Zhou Xiaoduo couldn't help but look at Zhou Xiaonian, who was beside him. However, he found that Zhou Xiaonian's face had returned to its emotionless state. Her temperament was cold and lonely, just like the bright moon in the sky. Although she was standing beside him, Zhou Xiaoduo felt that Zhou Xiaonian was like a fairy from the moon, far away from the mortal world. Strong, independent, cold, proud, and noble. She was no longer the sister Nian who would call him doggy at home, cower in front of her father, and act cute in front of her mother. The Zhou Xiaonian now was a fairy in the sky. Unattainable. It was lonely at the top. This sudden sense of distance caused Zhou Xiaoduo's heart to inexplicably skip a beat. It was an intense and unprecedented feeling. So, this was the other side of Sister Nian. The other side in front of people was the real Zhou Xiaonian. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo was confused. This sudden sense of distance was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was unreachable. The young man's heart was deeply touched for the first time. If I don't work hard, maybe I won't be able to reach the circle and realm my sister is in. Although Zhou Xiaonian was his sister Nian, in the eyes of the world, she would only be a fairy that everyone had to look up to. This sudden sense of distance made Zhou Xiaoduo's heart tremble like never before. I understand now. No one expected this. The second change in Zhou Xiaoduo's state of mind came so quickly, so suddenly, and so easily. Just this sense of distance had suddenly stimulated his entire being. If I don't work hard, maybe I won't be qualified to stand next to Nian Cat in the future. She is standing right next to me, but she is so far away from me. It's like she is in the sky. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo's heart was shaken. Master, junior sister, Zhou Xiaonian said, this is my brother, Zhou Xiaoduo. The delicate short-haired girl, Meng Qinyu, smiled faintly and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo from head to toe. Her eyes were full of curiosity and condescension. Mu Yanyan, who was dressed in a white palace dress, was also looking at Zhou Xiaoduo. Her eyes were full of scrutiny and a little disappointment. His bone structure is okay. Mu Yanyan said lightly, it's just a little thin and a little old. The bones of a 17-year-old are basically set. His aptitude is also okay. The tenacity of his meridians is medium. His limbs are well-proportioned and coordinated. He can be considered a seedling for martial arts cultivation. Mu Yanyan praised a little, then changed the topic and said, but he is a little old after all. He is 17 years old. No matter how hard he works, his future is limited. He is destined not to go far. Zhou Xiaonian said coldly, I don't care about this. Master, you don't have to care. She faced Mu Yanyan, I only hope that in these 3 days, Master and junior sister can help me do what they promised me. Mu Yanyan nodded slightly, of course. But if he can't persist, your junior sister and I will be secondary. It will be a waste of your painstaking efforts. That's also my business. Zhou Xiaonian's attitude was very firm. On the other side, the delicate girl, Meng Qinyu, smiled and said, Senior sister, I will do what I promised you. But don't forget what you promised me. Remember to return the favor. Zhou Xiaonian nodded slightly and didn't say anything more. The next moment, Mu Yanyan waved her hand and suddenly disappeared with Zhou Xiaonian. Only Meng Qinyu and Zhou Xiaoduo were left in the huge martial arts hall. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the girl in front of him calmly. He knew very well that the girl looked weak like an ordinary girl, but her strength was definitely a super master that he couldn't touch at all at his current stage. What was more obvious was that the first day of training had to be completed by this girl. The only thing that bothered Zhou Xiaoduo was that although this girl looked very beautiful, so beautiful that anyone would be stunned by her beauty, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't have the tendency to look at her for a while longer. Because her expression and eyes made Zhou Xiaoduo feel very awkward and uncomfortable. Especially after his sister left, she looked at him like a normal person looking at an ant, full of disdain and arrogance. What are you looking at? Meng Qinyu narrowed her eyes. You mean, I can't look? Zhou Xiaoduo asked in return. You can look, and you can understand a little. Meng Qinyu sneered, how about I introduce you to it directly? Zhou Xiaoduo, ? Do you know where this place is? Meng Qinyu proudly raised her slender neck. This is the underground of the Meng group. It's a full 300 meters from the surface, and countless people and resources were spent to build this holy land for cultivation. 300 meters. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the hall that was as spacious as a football field and couldn't help but tremble. What you've seen is only 1/10 of the entire cultivation ground, Yi Futian said. Meng Qinyu lightly said, this cultivation area has many kinds of facilities. It has everything that can be used for cultivation. My father spent 12 billion star dollars to prepare this cultivation gift for me after my master took me in as a disciple. Zhou Xiaoduo listened to Meng Qinyu's increasingly superior and arrogant tone, but he didn't say anything. The reason he didn't want to say anything was very simple, it was meaningless. Aside from the load-bearing walls, the walls of this place are embedded with mid-grade astral souls jade and engraved with arrays. The ceiling above is made up of 108,888 mid-grade astral souls jade. It's a cultivation array that releases spiritual energy. And the astral souls array on the ceiling and the surrounding walls can be combined to form a super large astral array. To put it bluntly, every breath you take here contains energy that a normal person would never be able to obtain in their lifetime. Meng Qinyu coldly said, the other parts of the training hall are even more high-end, so I won't introduce them to you one by one. You only need to know one thing. If it weren't for your sister, you would never have the chance to enter this place even once in your lifetime. Even if you live until your death, you won't know that such a place exists. Meng Qinyu's words became sharper. It hurt his pride. But Zhou Xiaoduo didn't get angry. He knew that whether he was angry, envious, or shocked, it would only make her feel better. Therefore, with a faint smile on his face, he continued to listen and watch, not saying a word from beginning to end. Seeing Zhou Xiaoduo look at her with an indifferent attitude as though he was used to it and did not say a word, Meng Qinyu inexplicably felt the anger in her heart rise. You should really thank your sister, because you really do have a good sister. Meng Qinyu mockingly said, if it weren't for her, someone like you. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded and spoke for the first time, you're right. My sister is really amazing. It's because of her that I have the chance to enter this place. I will be very, very grateful to my sister. Meng Qinyu was stunned. She really didn't expect Zhou Xiaoduo to say it so calmly. It was as if it was a matter of fact, and a matter of course. She only heard Zhou Xiaoduo continue, speaking of gratitude, you should actually be more grateful to your father. Your father really is amazing. He has given you far too much, far more than I can imagine. It's because of this that you have the chance to show off in front of me. Your father is very hardworking and very amazing. This is the truth. Meng Qinyu's delicate face immediately turned red. For the first time, she lost her composure and roared, of course my father is amazing. He's much better than your father. Zhou Xiaoduo's face finally sank completely. He mockingly said, your father is much better than my father. That's not necessarily true, right? Your father has a $1 trillion corporation and countless assets, but the daughter he raised is only so-so. On the other hand, my father has no assets, but the sister he raised is much better than your father's daughter. Meng Qinyu was suddenly speechless. These words, there was really no way to refute. But I'm much better than you. What about that? Meng Qinyu was silent for a long time before retorting. I can't compare to my daughter, but can I not compare to my son? You're better than me. How are you better than me? Zhou Xiaoduo's face was full of pride as he retorted, there are many things that I have that you don't have. You actually dare to boast that you're better than me. You think too highly of yourself. This kind of feeling of being beside someone, but feeling so far away, I really have experienced it before. During the first year of Qi Dian's annual meeting, I looked at the great god in front of me. Although he was right beside me, he really felt so far away. So after returning from the annual meeting, I continuously exploded for 5 years. Chapter 45. What do you have? Meng Qinyu jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. What do you have? What do you have? I have my elder sister, a genius elder sister, an elder sister who cares for me wholeheartedly. I also have a father and mother who raised a genius like my elder sister. Zhou Xiaoduo calmly said, also, I am a man. What I have, you don't have. You will never have it. Zhou Xiaoduo finally began his counterattack. Meng Qinyu's face was gloomy as she said, ridiculous. Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled with an indifferent expression. This girl did not fall for it. I thought you were going to say something along the lines of, I can have as much as I want. Humph, no guts. I forgot to tell you. Meng Qinyu pointed to a small room at the side of the hall. It looked like 2 large fish tanks. Over there is a healing pod for astral souls. If you cultivate here, no matter how serious your injuries are, as long as you still have a breath left, you can enter that pod and fully recover in 15 minutes. Just these 2 cabins alone cost 15 billion star dollars to build. The healing potions inside are all top-grade astral souls jade liquid. That's why they have such miraculous effects and can bring the dead back to life. So, you don't need to worry about getting hurt. Perhaps, in this lifetime, you will only be able to use these healing pods for a few days. So, you can find a chance to use them a few more times. Meng Qinyu's words were filled with ridicule. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the 2 healing pods. Looking at this magnificent place, his eyes shone brightly. At this moment, he suddenly had a goal in his heart. To become stronger. To stand beside his elder sister and say to her, don't be afraid. You have me. This was Zhou Xiaoduo's first thought. His second thought, I want to be rich. I want a lot of money. Meng Qinyu looked at Zhou Xiaoduo with some ridicule, right? Do you remember what I said to your elder sister? In order for you to have these 3 days, your elder sister promised me a good thing. Zhou Xiaoduo's face suddenly darkened. What did my elder sister promise you? Meng Qinyu proudly said, you have an elder sister who misses you. Although I do not have a younger brother, I have an elder brother who has liked your elder sister for a long time. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes immediately changed. They became like 2 poisonous snakes staring at Meng Qinyu's face. After a long time, he finally said in a low voice, what do you mean? Meng Qinyu proudly said, guess. I'll give up this opportunity. Zhou Xiaoduo said angrily. Impossible. Meng Qinyu said, since you have already entered, the promise I made to your elder sister has already been fulfilled. You can't get out of this place on your own. Even if you give up, our agreement cannot be changed. Now, you have 3 choices. The first condition is to kill me. The second condition is to defeat me. The third condition is to let you out in 3 days. Meng Qinyu's eyes suddenly became sharp. Instead of talking nonsense, action is the most practical. The special training has begun. Boom! Zhou Xiaoduo was kicked out. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo had a third goal. Become strong, have money. After he became stronger, he would beat this girl to death and revive her. Then, he would use money to smash this girl and her father to death again. On the other side, in an office upstairs, Zhou Xiaoyan crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her eyes were fixed on the surveillance screen. Mu Yan was also watching the screen. Only these 2 were expressionless. They did not make a sound for a long time. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo had already been beaten by Meng Qinyu 17 times. His body was already covered in cuts and bruises. And from Meng Qinyu's mouth, she continued to spit out many words that provoked Zhou Xiaoduo. Trash like you. You still want to protect your elder sister? Ha ha ha. Is this how you use the star-plucking palm? What does your dragon's leg look like? It looks like noodles. Soft, it looks very delicious. Do you want to eat it? The starry sky steps is said to be able to travel through the galaxy. Its movements are like the resplendent galaxy. It is magnificent, but you use it like a duck's steps. You want to avoid my attacks like this? Are you retarded? Are you retarded, or are you thinking too simply? Do you think that this kind of place is something that trash like you can lust after? I have already suppressed my cultivation to the same level as you, but you are still unable to withstand a single blow. Then you can only be trash. Do you think I will teach you the essentials of the moves? Learn it yourself in real combat. This is the best way. Get up, trash. You can't earn money and can't become strong. Trash. I have given you such a good opportunity, but you can only waste it. If you are not trash, then what are you? Stand up, trash. If it wasn't for your trash's sister begging me, would I let you come here? Trash. Why are you staring at me? Do you think you can defeat me by staring at me? Not only are you trash, you are also an idiot. Why aren't you moving? Why aren't you attacking? Aren't you very capable? Aren't you very angry? Recovering your chi like I did? Ha ha ha. If I say you are an idiot, then you are an idiot. How could my reply be the same as yours? Your performance really hasn't improved at all. Are you becoming more and more confused? Star plucking palm has a total of 9 moves. Do you only know how to use them in order? You think you can defeat me with these little tricks? You really are an idiot. Ha ha ha. Under Meng Qinyu's torrent of insults, Zhou Xiaoduo had already gone completely crazy. Even if he was knocked down again and again, he would climb back up again and again. His face was already swollen like a pig's head, but he still continued to attack without fear of death. Become stronger. Have money. I, your father, can feel myself transforming. Right now, I am not as good as you, but I am becoming stronger little by little. Faster. Faster. More. Faster. Again, and again, and again, and again. Yes, after last night's external infusion, Zhou Xiaoduo had absorbed all of the greedy wolf's heart's energy into his body. Although his cultivation realm was still that of a martial warrior, his strength had already reached the level of a martial master. In fact, his absolute strength had already reached the peak of a martial master. But in terms of strength and progress, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. Trash. I gave you such a good opportunity in front of you. I gave you such a good environment, but you can't even display the corresponding strength. Meng Qinyu's vicious words were getting more and more excessive. Someone like you who only has strength in his body is just a meat shield on the battlefield. Moreover, you are an incompetent meat shield. Do you know, a fool like you, even if you have a few 100 billion, will still become a pauper in the hands of a veteran. This sentence is suitable for the gambling table, and it is also suitable for you, Zhou Xiaoduo. Come and hit me, come and hit me. Zhou Xiaoduo roared and rushed forward again. Mu Yan looked at the monitor and smiled. Xiao Yan, as your master, I have to admit that I made a mistake just now. Although your younger brother started late, he is still good in his bones. At least he is very smart. He is very smart. Zhou Xiaoyan was puzzled. Her face seemed to be expressionless, but in fact, her heart was in great pain. She even began to regret bringing Zhou Xiaoduo to this special training. Although she seemed to be watching with full concentration, her mind had already drifted to God knows where. Does this Meng Qinyu want to die? It must be, right? He is really good. Can't you see it? Mu Yan was a little surprised by her disciple's reaction. He looks very angry, bristling with anger, and abnormal manic. Of course, this is his real emotional reaction. It is not deliberately fake. But when he was fighting with your junior sister, he was abnormally calm. Mu Yan's calm eyes stared at Zhou Xiaoduo's every movement on the screen. She faintly said, although Qinyu's true cultivation exceeds his by far, far, far. Even if her cultivation is suppressed to the level of a martial master, the difference between the two is still like the difference between heaven and earth. But as your younger brother continues to battle, he is improving at every moment. Regardless of whether it is palm techniques, leg techniques, or footwork, with each use, he continues to improve. He is even more proficient than the last time. A large portion of the power he obtained yesterday is still dormant in his body. Even if it has already fused with him, he is still far from being able to use it freely. However, after being defeated for the third time, at least the portion of power that he has already fused with is completely under his control, and he is able to use it. When he was knocked down for the fifth time, all the power in his body began to merge and become his. Even his fists, palms, legs, and footwork have all been learned and can be used in actual combat. And now, in just one morning, your younger brother's star-picking palm is already close to the perfection stage, and his dragon gate kick is also close to the perfection stage. But what's really surprising is that his starry sky steps has already reached the perfection stage. It's really ingenious, and it's all in one's heart. This intelligence really makes me look at him in a new light. Mu Yanyan's eyes were full of undisguised admiration and amazement. It is really good. What I admire even more is how your junior sister provoked him with her words. Even though he was angry and irritable, he managed to suppress his state of mind that should have gone berserk and turned it all into motivation. In fact, it even stimulated his mind to become clearer and think more comprehensively. Did you see it clearly? Those are not eyes that have lost his mind due to anger. Looking at his eyes, he has been thinking. He has not been affected by anger at all. This temperament is worthy of the word amazing. Zhou Xiaoyan's cold face finally bloomed with a sweet smile. She could not help but raise her head proudly. My dog. He is so amazing. But she still wanted to hear a few more words that she said with a little innocence. Master, it seems that this is the first time you have praised someone like this. Perhaps this book was the most difficult time in my writing career. I hope everyone can help me. Today's third watch, please recommend me. Chapter 46. Mu Yanyan smiled and said, when have I ever been stingy with my praise for someone worthy of praise? Your brother deserves this praise. Zhou Xiaoyan's expression changed, and she bowed her head and said, Xiaoyan, thanks master for the praise on behalf of my brother. Her face was full of restraint, and she had a serious look of joy. Actually, your brother's other characteristic may even be better than you and Qinyu. No, it must be better than Qinyu. Mu Yanyan said faintly, and she actually sighed. Ah! Master, you! Where did you come from? Although I am very happy that you praised Xiao Duo, you don't have to praise him too much. Zhou Xiaoyan was a little overwhelmed by Mu Yanyan's evaluation. What kind of person was Mu Yanyan? What kind of insight and experience did she have? She had a total of 2 disciples, Zhou Xiaoyan and Meng Qinyu. Both of them were top geniuses. He had already proven his insight and his strict requirements for accepting a disciple. Now that he had suddenly said that Zhou Xiao Duo was better than Meng Qinyu in a certain aspect, if word of this got out, even if Zhou Xiao Duo did not immediately become the target of public criticism, it was more or less the case. What Master said is true. Although this younger brother of yours is quite good in other aspects, he is only good. Only in terms of perseverance, he can be considered superhuman. Whether or not he surpasses you is hard to say, but he definitely surpasses Qinyu. Mu Yanyan evaluated, even if he has been in the martial master realm for many years, he will not be able to hold on until now. Only your brother has shown signs of exhaustion, but he is still trying his best to fight. Just in this aspect, Qinyu is not as good as him. Mu Yanyan sighed and said, now you know why Master said this. This scene reminds me of you in the past. Weren't you like this in the past? Zhou Xiaoyan's bright eyes flashed and said, Master, do you think Xiao Duo can catch up with me and surpass me? Look at how he's risking his life. I think he's stronger than me, much stronger. Mu Yanyan sighed. Looking at Zhou Xiaoyan's hopeful eyes, she shook her head and said, if we had discovered his perseverance earlier, he might have been able to catch up with you. But he started too late, and it is impossible for him to catch up with you. In this life, he might be able to walk a thorny path like you and reach the pinnacle of 7th pressure, or even 8th pressure. However, at the very most, the most he can achieve in his life is core. Even if he is lucky enough to reach the soul transformation stage, there is no way to advance any further. His path of cultivation ends there. Is it true that I can reach the nascent soul stage if I have a chance encounter, Master? Zhuo Xiaoyan asked persistently. What I'm saying is that under the smoothest circumstances, he must have had great luck to be able to reach this level. Mu Yanyan sighed with some regret. His Dantian astral souls are too weak. He started too late. But Zhuo Xiaoyan's face was already as bright as a spring flower. That's enough. As long as he can reach the soul transformation stage, he can accompany me for 1,000 years. It's already a miracle beyond estimation. Zhuo Xiaoyan murmured in her heart. Your junior sister did a good job this time, right? Mu Yanyan said. Zhuo Xiaoyan looked at the screen. Meng Qinyu's hands and feet fell on Zhuo Xiaoduo's face, body, back, and head like a storm that she frowned and said with a worried look, Master, junior sister's cultivation progress has been a little slow during this time. Mu Yanyan said, it's indeed a little slow. She's just too playful. She wasted such an excellent cultivation environment. If others knew about it, they would only say that you didn't teach her well. She would lose a lot of face. That's right. This girl is always smiling and cheeky. She's shameless. I also have a headache. Well, after a few days, I'll be responsible for spurring junior sister. It's related to Master's face. How can we not treat it seriously? Zhuo Xiaoyan looked at the screen. Meng Qinyu was still laughing arrogantly. She kicked Zhuo Xiaoduo 17 or 18 meters away. She was extremely arrogant and showed her fangs and claws. Mu Yanyan looked at Zhuo Xiaoyan strangely and said, as her senior sister, it's naturally the best for you to urge her. But didn't you think it was a waste of time in the past? In the past, I was not a competent senior sister. In the future, I will urge junior sister well. Zhuo Xiaoyan said solemnly. In the future, I will urge her twice a day. Well, You did the right thing with the Tanlang school. I have reported it, and the governor's office has responded. Yes. After so many years, no one knows how much the UMNO alliance has infiltrated the mainland. But there shouldn't be many in Phoenix City. Mu Yanyan said, after all, it's a small city. Maybe. But it's said that 7 kills is on the move. In Phoenix City, I have to go to the north of the city to watch over the next few nights. Mu Yanyan said. Okay. In the monitor, Zhuo Xiaoduo rushed up again. His palms were like knives and axes. He moved strangely with the star steps and the dragon gate kick. He had reached the level of 3 in 1. At this time, Meng Qinyu's face was covered in sweat. Her cultivation was much higher than Zhuo Xiaoduo's, but she suppressed her cultivation to the level of martial master to fight with Zhuo Xiaoduo. Although she recovered her qi quickly, and her combat skills were exquisite, she had an obvious advantage. But after such a long time of high-intensity fighting, both her mental and physical strength were exhausted. Moreover, she was spoiled since she was young. Her fighting spirit was far inferior to Zhuo Xiaoduo's. She was no longer as calm as before. Her image was barely satisfactory. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was in an even worse state, didn't give up. He continued to charge forward again and again with a ferocious expression, as if he could continue for a long time. Meng Qinyu no longer had the strength to curse Zhuo Xiaoduo. Instead, it was Zhuo Xiaoduo who began to curse. He cursed and fought at the same time. He shouted loudly and fought fiercely without stopping. Meng Qinyu, you little girl, you dare to curse your master's will like this today. Our grudge has been set. One day, I will make you regret it. You little girl, you dare to raise conditions with my sister. Sooner or later, I will kill you. Do you see that recovery pod, Meng Qinyu? Don't think that I can't beat you today. There will be plenty of time in the future. One day, I will rape you and then kill you. When you are on your last breath, I will throw you into the recovery pod. Then I will rape you and kill you. I will kill you 999 times. I guarantee that I won't kill you one more time, but I won't kill you one less time. Even Meng Qinyu, who had a much higher cultivation, was already out of strength. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who had a much lower cultivation, was naturally out of strength even earlier. Now, he was completely relying on his instincts to fight, however, he was unwilling to give up. You hit me. You actually dare to hit your master Zhuo. Humiliating me. Daddy will kill you one day. Kill you. Kill you. Zhuo Xiaoduo shouted loudly. His eyes were bloodshot. The so-called bloodshot eyes were nothing more than this. Meng Qinyu's beautiful face was gloomy. Her fists and palms suddenly increased in strength. Like a 1,000-pound sledgehammer, her fists smashed into Zhuo Xiaoduo's body. She fiercely muttered, "I'll teach you to be stubborn. I'll teach you to talk dirty. I'll teach you to rape me and then kill me." With a bang, Meng Qinyu kicked Zhuo Xiaoduo's chin. Zhuo Xiaoduo spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was sent flying. Like a dead fish, he fell to the ground. Meng Qinyu flew forward 2 steps and screamed, "Rape me and then kill me." Following this, she kicked Zhuo Xiaoduo with great force, accurately sending him into the recovery pod. Then she rolled her eyes and held her knees with both hands. She gasped for breath. The sweat on her head was like a waterfall. It flowed down her head and her hair. Meng Qinyu, the once delicate girl, was now not delicate in the slightest. Her image was gone. This job is really hard to do. Meng Qinyu felt that she was about to collapse. Regarding this result, the only feeling she had was astonishment. With her own cultivation and strength, suppressing her cultivation to be a sparring partner for a martial warrior was enough to make her collapse. If this was not abnormal, then it would be the strangest thing in the world. Meng Qinyu took a few deep breaths and staggered over. She saw Zhuo Xiaoduo soaking in the nutrient solution, bobbing up and down. Thinking for a bit, she opened the other recovery pod and laid down inside. I'll just lie there for 5 minutes. Too tired. This old lady is so tired. Junior sister actually entered the recovery pod. Zhuo Xiaoyan was indignant. "Master, this is too much." Fighting with Xiaoduo's low cultivation, she actually had to enter the recovery pod. This is seriously ruining the sect's reputation. Mu Yan coughed, feeling a little strange. Although what Xiaoyan said was reasonable, there were only the 3 of them, master and disciple, plus Zhuo Xiaoduo. There was no one else. Wasn't it a little too much to raise the level of ruining the sect's reputation a little too much? And, your junior sister's method is indeed inappropriate. With her cultivation and strength, she really shouldn't have entered the recovery pod. She should have used her own cultivation to absorb spiritual energy and self-heal. Xiaoyan, find an opportunity to teach your junior sister what the right way is. I know, I will definitely teach junior sister well. Zhuo Xiaoyan promised. Vigorous ball recommendation ticket. Chapter 47. About 10 minutes later, Meng Qinyu came out of the healing pod. She was full of energy and her face was as rosy as before. Then her body flashed and she appeared in front of Zhuo Xiaoyan and Mu Yan. Senior sister, junior sister did well, right? Meng Qinyu smiled and asked for credit. Zhuo Xiaoyan's cold face was expressionless. I did my best just now and it definitely aroused this kid's anger. I think this kid is going all out. He's really playing with his life. I clearly broke a few of his bones, but he still tried his best to attack. It's really not bad. Senior sister, this younger brother of yours has a bit of vigor. Meng Qinyu smiled happily, other than his mouth being a bit cheap, everything else is like a man. Zhou Xiaoyan snorted and did not say anything. She clearly felt that when Meng Qinyu said Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth was a bit cheap, a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. It seemed that what Zhou Xiaoduo said had angered this girl. But Zhou Xiaoyan still did not say anything. This time, it was for Zhou Xiaoduo to train. With this layer of hatred, it might have a more positive effect. We agreed before. Don't forget, senior sister. My brother always wanted to invite you to a meal. Meng Qinyu hugged Zhou Xiaoyan's arm and said coquettishly, I already agreed with him. You two will have a meal together. And, it's just a meal. You already promised me. Zhou Xiaoyan was still expressionless. After a while, she said, after 3 days, I will see the results of your training. Okay. Meng Qinyu jumped up, just wait and see. At this time, Zhou Xiaoduo's arrogant voice came from below, Meng Qinyu. Where's Meng Qinyu? That little girl. Where did she go? Hurry up and come out for Master Zhou. Master Zhou is here. Hurry up and come out to greet the guest. Greet the guest? Meng Qinyu's face suddenly sank. Mu Yanyan's face also sank. You can hit harder. There are healing pods left and right. It's not a big deal. Mu Yanyan said. Understood, Master. Meng Qinyu disappeared in a flash. Zhou Xiaoyan looked at the monitor screen without any expression. Her beautiful eyes were focused and she was paying close attention to the battle. Your 2 martial uncles who are traveling outside have already received my message. They will arrive at Phoenix City in a month and a half. Mu Yanyan said lightly, and your 2 martial uncles, this time, they will also come down the mountain. With the combined strength of the 5 of us, we will protect you. Mu Yanyan took a deep breath. You can't make any mistakes in your breakthrough this time, and you won't make any mistakes. Zhou Xiaoyan didn't respond immediately. She was still looking at Zhou Xiaoduo on the screen and thinking about what Zhou Xiaoduo had said, based on your physiognomy, there's a great risk of a breakthrough. Her beautiful eyes flickered. After a long time, she slowly nodded and said, I understand. During the first day of the special training, Zhou Xiaoduo was basically being beaten from morning to night. However, the harder he was beaten, the more ferocious Zhou Xiaoduo became, and he put more effort into studying the use of his moves. By the time it was dinner time, he had already entered the healing pod 3 times. This kind of consumption made Meng Qinyu, who had always been rich and arrogant and regarded money as dirt, feel distressed. She strongly suspected that this kid was deliberately getting injured so that he could use her healing pod? And use this to get revenge on her? It could be seen that no matter how rich you were, no matter how much money you talked about, it was just a string of numbers. After a certain amount of consumption, you would still feel distressed. In the evening, everyone went out to eat dinner. Zhou Xiaoduo was still alone in the training room. His dinner was a single-horned deer thigh sent by Zhou Xiaoyan. It was at least 40 to 50 pounds. It was roasted until it was golden brown, and the fragrance was unrestrained. It was very tempting. Zhou Xiaoduo smelled the aroma of the meat and suddenly felt like a hungry wolf. His stomach growled loudly, and he could not wait to eat. But he still resisted this impulse. In one breath, he rushed to the door and shouted at Zhou Xiaoyan, What did you promise that girl? Quickly reject her. I don't need it. We don't need it. This was the first time he had contact with Zhou Xiaoyan today. If he did not say the words he had been holding back for a long time, when would he? Separated by a door, Zhou Xiaoyan stood coldly and looked at her brother, whose face was full of grief and indignation. After a long time, she did not say anything. She turned around and left. Zhou Xiaoyan. You dared to sell yourself out. You are really bold. Zhou Xiaoduo shouted, You wait. I will tell Dad when I go back. I will tell Mom. You. She wanted to threaten Zhou Xiaoyan and force her to submit, but after racking her brains, she realized that there was nothing she could do to threaten Zhou Xiaoyan. She could only use her parents to pressure her. There was no need for Zhou Xiaoyan to answer. Zhou Xiaoduo already felt defeated, completely defeated. That's right, Zhou Xiaoyan was no longer the weak and delicate girl at home. She was a strong person. Even in the entire Phoenix City, it was the kind of name that could be shouted out. She was the pride of the whole city. Zhou Xiaoyan was a strong woman who was completely independent. She was independent and strong. She could solve any problem by herself, including those problems that even his parents could not solve. Even when no one knew, Zhou Xiaoyan had already experienced many life and death battles. Many people could not imagine, and many people could not experience in their lives. Her strength had long exceeded his imagination and understanding. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed and stood in front of the door, looking in the direction that Zhou Xiaoyan left. An inexplicable feeling suddenly surged in his heart. Looking at the fragrant single-horned deer thigh on the ground, Zhou Xiaoduo, who was originally hungry, only felt that it was tasteless and could not eat. There was never a moment when he hated himself so much for being useless. Why couldn't I be strong earlier? Why couldn't I be the pillar of the family? Why did I let Sister Nian suffer because of me? As a younger brother, as a man, shouldn't I protect my sister well? With her status and strength, she should not bow to anyone. Feeling the rich aura of astral souls in the air, Zhou Xiaoduo bared his teeth and roared hysterically. He sat on the ground, grabbed the single-horned deer thigh on the ground, and bit it hard. Sister Nian, I will be your pride. Nian Nian cat. I will protect you. Definitely. Wait for me. But when Meng Qinyu and her disciples came back from dinner, they saw Zhou Xiaoduo was sweating profusely trying to figure out the 3 sets of martial arts. Every move, every style, was extremely serious and meticulous. And between his movements, it was like he was very familiar with it and had the demeanor of a master. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo was bare-chested. The 3 girls could clearly see that every muscle on his body was moving in the most appropriate way, and the meridians in his body were running smoothly. His eyes were projected on the mirror on his left side, confirming that his movements were accurate. He was trying to find out if there were any mistakes, and then he would correct them the next time. Very good. He has almost reached perfection, and there are no flaws in his movements. Mu Yanyan's eyes were full of surprise. Except for his weak cultivation, even an old martial arts master who has been immersed in these 3 sets of martial arts for more than 10 years may not be able to fight better than him, and use them more skillfully. Mu Yanyan said, Nian Nian, your brother is really pitiful. Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes flashed with a touch of pride, and said, my brother is a genius, I have never doubted this. It's just that he had a strange dream for several years, and his time was delayed. But I believe that he will be able to get back the glory he deserves, and let me and Mom and Dad feel proud. Mu Yanyan pondered and nodded. Qinyu, you can go in. Master, let's discuss something. Meng Qinyu's scalp was a little numb. Senior Sister Nian's brother is really a monster. I can't kill him, and I have to suppress my cultivation at all times, but his mouth is like a cesspool. Every word can anger people to death. I'm really afraid that I will lose control in a moment of anger. Also, this guy's physical strength is also at the level of a monster. With the cultivation of a martial arts master, or even above that, he should be drained by me in a few minutes, but this guy is like a cockroach that can't be killed. I'm really tired, can you? Mu Yanyan narrowed her eyes. You still have the nerve to say you're tired? It's clear that you have slacked off a lot during this period of time. Your progress is too slow, so slow that it makes me disappointed. Look at how Zhou Xiaoduo cultivates. How hard, and what is his attitude towards cultivation? He is simply risking his life to improve, but what about you, what is your attitude? Everyone has their strong points, and Zhou Xiaoduo's strong points are his tenacity, his ruthlessness, his perseverance, and his temperament. These points are all above you, far above you. You need to learn. If Zhou Xiaoduo had your conditions and environment, I believe that it would only be a matter of time before he catches up to you. Even if he lost so much time in the beginning. Mu Yanyan snorted and turned to leave. Mu Yanyan had something that she was too embarrassed to say. If Meng Chenyu was really caught by Zhou Xiaoduo and caught up, then it would really be as Zhou Xiaoyan said. She would be a disgrace to the sect and become a laughingstock. Even she, the master, would not have the face to see others. Senior sister. Meng Chenyu still wanted to act spoiled to Zhou Xiaoyan, but just as she called out, she met with Zhou Xiaoyan's unusually cold eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? Meng Chenyu said angrily. If you feel tired, we can end it now. I will go and bring him out. Zhou Xiaoyan said leisurely, but our agreement ends here. A person's words are trustworthy. A person without trust is worthless. You have not fulfilled the agreement, so how can you expect others to fulfill the agreement? Meng Chenyu fiercely gritted her teeth. Isn't it just accompanying a Zhou Xiaoduo to fight? Is this girl really not as good as him? After saying this, she walked in with her head held high. Zhou Xiaoyan snorted and disappeared in a flash. It was midnight. Zhou Xiaoduo entered the recovery cabin for the 5th time. His whole body was immersed in the spiritual liquid. He could only feel countless pure spiritual energy, like rivers flowing into the sea, entering his body. It quickly healed all the scars and healed all the damage to his meridians. What made Zhou Xiaoduo even more surprised was that the cool energy between his eyebrows was moving along with the pure spiritual energy in the recovery cabin. It was moving in a lively manner that he had never seen before. It became stronger and stronger, gradually covering all the meridians in his body. I now have 1.5 drops of luck points. In other words, I can use this to see a person's fate for 3 whole months. But this is my last resort. It is also Nian Nian Cat's life-saving straw. I can't waste it at all. I must use it carefully. The spiritual energy of the Jade of Astral Souls can help increase the cool energy outside of the luck points. This is a pleasant surprise. Now I can confirm that the more Jade of Astral Souls, the better. The denser the spiritual energy, the better. So in the future, I will definitely need a large amount of Jade of Astral Souls for my cultivation. I only need to soak in this recovery cabin for 15 minutes, and my body will be completely healed. This is probably the most basic function of the recovery cabin. And the cool energy that will help me cover all the meridians in my body, making them flexible and expand again, is an additional benefit. In here, the spiritual energy of the recovery cabin and the cool energy complement each other. In the 15 minutes that I am soaked in, the cool energy can cover my meridians twice. If that's the case, my meridians have been reborn twice in 15 minutes. If I miss this opportunity, I don't know if there will be a next time. A high-end place like this is definitely not something that I can come to often. Now that there is such an opportunity, I should take the opportunity to soak in it a few more times. As long as I sustain enough injuries, I can come in. And soaking in it a few more times. Just treat it as a little interest paid by Meng Chenyu in advance. Yes, with this recovery cabin, perhaps I can completely temper all the bones in my body in these 3 days. Zhou Xiaoduo found a new goal. Bone tempering. The higher the quality of the spirit energy, the better the future of cultivation. Today's recovery cabin. He. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed sinisterly. If I let go of such a good thing, won't I be struck by lightning? Today's big chapter can be considered a small hit. Please recommend it. Chapter 48. As a result, when Zhou Xiaoduo battled Meng Chenyu, his words became even more unpleasant. All sorts of obscenities were spewed out without end. Meng Chenyu was so angry that her lungs had expanded by 3 times. Naturally, her attacks became even fiercer, but the fiercer she was, the more vicious Zhou Xiaoduo became. As a result, Meng Chenyu began to reflect and began to regret the words she had said to provoke this guy. Was it because I went too far in cursing him? If I did not set an example and attacked first, would the opponent's mouth be filled with obscenities? Was this a sparring partner? This was a fucking scolding, a scolding from day to night. In Zhou Xiaoduo's words, Meng Qinyu's body was already covered in cuts and bruises. First raping then killing, etc. It was not even worth mentioning. Meng Qinyu had once curiously calculated, but she only calculated for half an hour before she went mad with anger. Because in this half an hour, Meng Qinyu had already been tortured to death by Zhou Xiaoduo 13 times. Boom, boom, boom. Meng Qinyu's attacks became heavier and heavier, and she became more and more unrestrained. Her face was ashen, and her lips were purple from anger. Her entire body could not help but tremble. Regret. Truly regret. What kind of thing is this? My dear elder brother, for the sake of your marriage, your little sister, have endured all kinds of abuse that a normal person would not be able to endure in 10,000 lifetimes. As the spoiled daughter of the chairman of the Meng group, the proud daughter of the heavens, she had never even dreamed that this world would have so many ways of cursing people, so many ways of abusing people. And these methods were right in front of her. Zhou Xiaoduo was like the Milky Way pouring out of the heavens, endlessly calling out her name one by one. Experiencing it one by one. Meng Qinyu currently only had one emotion left, these days, quickly end. In the beginning, Meng Qinyu had sent Zhou Xiaoduo into a recovery pod, so she could calm down outside. But later on, Zhou Xiaoduo went in once, and Meng Qinyu also went in once. Because if she did not go in, she was worried that her lungs would explode from anger. He still had to worry about his liver. He felt that his liver was probably already swollen from anger. It was 3:30 in the morning. Zhou Xiaoduo entered the healing pod again. He smacked his lips and pondered for a while. A feeling of regret arose spontaneously. The spiritual energy in the healing cabin was still so abundant that it made one's hair stand on end. However, the cooling energy could no longer be maintained. The previous state where the cooling energy spread throughout the meridians of the body no longer existed. This is saturation. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed in the healing pod. If it was possible, he wouldn't mind staying in this state for 8 or 10 more days. What a pity. Lying in the recovery pod, Zhou Xiaoduo could not help but feel dispirited. Since he no longer had this benefit, Zhou Xiaoduo no longer had any interest in cursing Meng Qinyu. Is my saliva worthless? Scolding people also required strength. There are so many methods and methods, all of which require the mind to devise. Zhou Xiaoduo floated in the spiritual liquid. He felt the spiritual liquid nourishing every inch of his skin and meridians. It was very comfortable. While recovering, it also tempered his bones. Currently, he had already secretly tempered his sternum. It was really convenient because Meng Qinyu had already broken some of his bones before entering the healing pod. Toe bones, calf bones, thigh bones, finger bones, arm bones, shoulder bones, pelvis bones, ribs. Then the sternum. After tempering the sternum and neck bones, he had to stop because the skull was not something that could be tempered at this level. Once in the martial soldier realm, once in the martial master realm, once in the Xiantian realm, once in the embryonic breathing realm, and once in the Dan realm, he could start the first tempering of the skull. While desperately absorbing the benefits, he could not help but frown and think, what did Sister Xiao Nian promise them? This Nian Nian cat really makes me worry. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed. 15 minutes, it was not short, but it was not long either. Just like that, it was about to pass. Looking at the atmosphere that was still filled with spiritual liquid, Zhou Xiaoduo thought about how he could only stay here for 3 days. Now that more than a day had passed, he could not help but feel a little reluctant to leave. That girl Meng Qinyu actually dared to negotiate with Nian Nian Cat. She clearly looks down on me, Zhou Xiaoduo. The more Zhou Xiaoduo thought about it, the angrier he became. He suddenly opened his mouth and swallowed the spiritual liquid in the healing pod. I really can't take advantage of anything else. Anyway, this thing is not poisonous. At most, it's mixed with my sweat and blood. Even if there was someone else's before, so what? Aren't the steamed buns that I usually eat made by someone else? Who can guarantee that there is no urine in the steamed buns? When Zhou Xiaoduo thought of this, he felt more at ease. In the limited time he had, he opened his mouth wide and gulped down his fill. Do whatever you want. Perhaps even the people who first designed this healing pod did not expect that there would be someone who would drink spiritual liquid in it like drinking beer. Moreover, he drank until he was full. This spiritual liquid was definitely beneficial to the human body. In fact, this thing was originally created for the human body to absorb. But the greatest significance of the existence of a medical pod, or perhaps it could be said that its greatest value was its sustainability. The spirit liquid that Meng Qinyu's Dao Hall had installed could be said to be of the highest quality. One pod of spirit liquid was enough for a person to use for a year. Or even more. Basically, it would only be replenished after a certain amount had been consumed. But no one had ever thought of drinking it. Why? Things like healing pods, no matter how high grade they were still public facilities. Do you know how many people had used them before? Even if the spiritual liquid inside was full of spiritual energy, it was no different from water in a public bath. 10,000% of people who went in were afraid that they would open their mouths and drink it. It was very disgusting. Who would have thought that Zhou Xiaoduo was such a unique weirdo? 15 minutes passed. Zhou Xiaoduo came out with his belly protruding. You! What did you do? Meng Qinyu looked at Zhou Xiaoduo's belly. Her pretty eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Hearing Meng Qinyu's suspicions, Zhou Xiaoduo flew into a rage. Taking the initiative, he complained, "When you stuffed me inside, could you not have seen if I was awake or not? I was seriously injured, and my mind was muddled. I instinctively opened my mouth, then I almost drowned in there. Look at how I got drunk. Tell me, did you do it on purpose?" Rubbing his round belly, Zhou Xiaoduo continued to rage, "If I had not woken up early, perhaps I really would have drowned. How many people have used this? Isn't it dirty? Isn't it disgusting?" Hearing Zhou Xiaoduo's complaints, Meng Qinyu's gloominess disappeared in an instant. Ha 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 ha. Did you drink a belly full of bathwater? Meng Qinyu was overjoyed. Her voice was filled with schadenfreude. Oh my God, how dirty would that be? Who told you to curse me? Serves you right. This is a gift from the heavens. See if you don't die from disgust. Humph. Zhou Xiaoduo's face was filled with anger. As a result, with this snort, 2 streams of milky white astral soul's spiritual energy came out of his nose. After he recovered, his meridians were already full. Now that he drank a belly full, it was truly difficult for him to bear. Now, because he could not bear it, he was about to spit it out. It had to be known that what he drank was not real water. Instead, it was real astral souls. How could it be easily digested? Although the spiritual liquid would not cause a person to explode, if they could not digest it, it would definitely be wasted. Come, you ugly freak. Zhou Xiaoduo shouted, come, come, come. Today, Grandpa Zhou will definitely beat you into submission. Meng Qinyu's nose was filled with smoke from being called an ugly freak. Without any explanation, she rushed over. Previously, although Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth was filled with obscenities and he had said everything, he really had not made any comments about Meng Qinyu's appearance. After all, Meng Qinyu was a delicate girl. Calling her ugly was a bit of an insult to his conscience. However, after the two had fought for so long, not only was Zhou Xiaoduo exhausted, but Meng Qinyu had also sweated profusely. Her originally delicate makeup had long since disappeared. Her current appearance could not be described as delicate. Since it was no longer delicate, then it could be. Zhou Xiaoduo's feet moved and he soared into the air. Using the star steps, it was as though he was stepping on a river of stars. Dragon's Gate kick flashed and he kicked out like a whirlwind. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the two were tangled together. Zhou Xiaoduo went all out and used all his strength. He had no choice but to go all out. Grandpa Zhou was already about to explode. Who is the ugly freak? Meng Qinyu hit her while angrily puffing up her chest. She had nearly grown a size larger. It's you, it's you, it's you. Zhou Xiaoduo punched and kicked. He did not dodge in the slightest and met force with force. His mouth did not relax in the slightest. How am I ugly? Meng Qinyu fumed. You're flat. Zhou Xiaoduo threw 7 or 8 punches and 20 kicks in a row. His entire body seemed to have turned into a spinning top. He continued to shout, "You're not curvy at all. Your entire body is like a washboard. Moreover, it's a washboard that's been ground flat. How are you good looking? You're an ugly freak everywhere." I wrote a little too much about the special training, but I was unwilling to delete it. I could only post it in the middle of the night. Fortunately, I did not charge for it. The second update should be posted around 2 in the afternoon. The third update should be posted around 7 in the evening. Chapter 49. Meng Qinyu's eyes looked as if they were about to spit fire. Her palms moved, and it was as if 100 flowers had bloomed. Her small white hands turned into pieces of flowers, and they fell heavily on Zhou Xiaoduo. "You're talking nonsense. How dare you? You pervert. If you didn't open your mouth, I wouldn't have known you were a woman." Zhou Xiaoduo tried his best to use his fists and legs to resist, but countless palm shadows poured down on his body like mercury, directly producing a burst of sound similar to hitting a sandbag. "Actually, even your voice is like a man's." Zhou Xiaoduo was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He shouted with all his might, "You're too skinny. I don't feel it. If my fist hit your chest, I would probably feel it. You don't look young. You should be in your 20s at least. You're already so old. Tell me, where have you grown?" Meng Qinyu was furious. "I'm only 18. 18? You don't look like it, but 18 is not young. Tell me, did you eat all your food in the toilet?" Zhou Xiaoduo roared, "When I kick your ass, it's like I'm kicking a steel bar. Is this a woman? Go out and ask, is this a woman? She's clearly a robot." Meng Qinyu's face was dark. She used all the skills she had cultivated for more than 10 years. Like a storm, she hit Zhou Xiaoduo's body. "I'll let you shout. I'll let you curse. I'll let you insult me, I'll let you talk dirty, I'll let you act like a pervert." Bang bang bang. Faced with such an onslaught, Zhou Xiaoduo used up all of his energy at an unprecedented rate. Only his body remained, but Meng Qinyu was still unwilling to relax in the slightest. Punching and kicking, every punch landed on flesh, kicking Zhou Xiaoduo around like a rubber ball. Finally, with a loud bang, Zhou Xiaoduo's entire body hit the wall and bounced back. He lay on the ground twitching and did not move for a long time. "Bastard!" Meng Qinyu gritted her teeth and dragged Zhou Xiaoduo by the hair towards the recovery pod. "This young miss still needs to take care of you." Dragging it to the side of the healing pod, he suddenly had an idea and dislocated Zhou Xiaoduo's jaw with a kacha sound, making him enter the healing pod with his mouth wide open. "Bastard! Go in and drink some bath water." Gurgle gurgle. Zhou Xiaoduo's face was filled with grief and indignation as he gulped down the bathwater. Oh, it was the spiritual liquid. Meng Qinyu saw this and felt extremely happy. "A person like you is only fit to drink bathwater." Only then did she proudly return to rest. She had just fiercely beaten Zhou Xiaoduo and had even made this bastard full of shit drink a bellyful of bathwater. Meng Qinyu's mood had become very good. She did not even enter the healing pod. Instead, she recovered outside and waited for Zhou Xiaoduo to come out of the healing pod in a sorry state. She saw Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth open passively, as bubbles continuously came out of his mouth. He had a miserable expression, as he tried his best to put his chin back in place, but he was completely unable to do so. Meng Qinyu felt as if she had eaten ice cream on a hot summer day. That could be called comfortable. This little brother of yours really is a demon. Mu Yan sighed and laughed. Too disgusting. Drink the bathwater. Zhou Xiaoyan could not help but frown. Disgusting? Mu Yen Yen looked at her precious disciple with some amusement. Nyen, that girl Chinyu is still young. It's fine if she doesn't have many accidents, but how come even you are blinded by it? It seems that you have not completely gotten rid of the mindset of a secular girl. As long as you treat this matter with the mindset of a cultivator, there will naturally be a different view. This is the bathwater in your eyes. Every drop is the purest spiritual liquid. It is the purest spiritual spring water and the spiritual energy of the jade of astral souls. It is the essence of the top-quality jade of astral souls. Do you know how much each mouthful your little brother swallowed is worth? The most conservative estimate is that each mouthful of spiritual liquid your little brother swallowed is equivalent to 1/10 of a top-quality jade of astral souls. Mu Yen Yen snorted and said, as long as it is helpful for cultivation and helps to increase one's strength, not to mention bathwater, even if it is feces. There are too many people who would gladly take it and refuse to take it. Zhuxiaonian, cultivation is cultivation. As long as you are strong, everything else is insignificant. This is the most correct way of thinking about cultivation. Your little brother did it, but you did not. To say that you are blinded by it is an understatement. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. Mu Yen Yen shook her head. Let me give you a simple example. On the battlefield, everyone is exhausted, and they don't even have a drop of spiritual essence left. At this time, you see a rejuvenation elixir. This elixir is stained with a lot of people's blood or something even dirtier. However, as long as you eat it, you can recover some of your strength and save your life. At this time, do you eat it? Mu Yen Yen snorted and said, Mysophobia? What is that? Is it more important than life? Zhuxiaonian lowered her head. I understand. Chenyu was born into a wealthy family. Her starting point is far, far higher than that of a normal person, but it is also because of this that her willpower is limited. That is why this junior sister of yours is destined to never reach the peak. Unless her father suddenly goes bankrupt, and she falls from the peak to the dust and experiences all kinds of pain. Mu Yen Yan's eyes were deep and said, otherwise, she will never know the pain of the world. How can she sharpen her mind? And warriors who don't know the pain of the world, even if they practice hard for a lifetime, can hardly reach the real peak. Mu Yen Yen smiled faintly and said, do you know why? Zhuxiaonian couldn't help but ask, why? Because people are born to experience the pain of the world. In the feudal era, there was a saying. Mu Yen Yen said faintly, at that time, the legend of immortals and Buddhas was still very popular. People at that time all said, no one can become a Buddha without suffering. No one can become a Buddha without suffering. Zhuxiaonian murmured this sentence, as if she had understood something. On the morning of the second day of the special training, Zhui Xiaoduo, who was still in the special training, finally finished the whole body tempering. He only felt a clear feeling in his heart, as if a shackle had suddenly been opened. It was also from this moment on that the martial master barrier in his meridians suddenly opened. Spiritual chi went through the new meridian channel, and the mighty momentum drove straight in. A carefree feeling arose spontaneously. His movements became even more flexible. In addition, some inexplicable feelings, as the new meridians were unblocked, little by little, and integrated into the heart lake. White steam that could be seen with the naked eye was emitting from his body. The sudden burst of energy made Zhui Xiaoduo, who had been in a state of being beaten, suddenly burst out, and actually directly beat Meng Qinyu back. The power was still abundant and bursting out. He broke through. Zhuxiaonian, who had been paying attention to the monitoring, exhaled deeply. He finally broke through. Martial Master. Doggy, from now on, you have truly embarked on the path of a warrior. Zhuxiaonian had been looking forward to this day for several years, and at this moment, her eyes were actually a little wet. He should have broken through a long time ago. Mu Yen Yen sat cross-legged on the side, and didn't even bat an eyelid. The power in his body has already surpassed the martial warrior level by too much. It is only natural that he reach the martial master level. With this opportunity and accumulation, I am afraid that he will directly break through the peak of the martial master level. This kind of progress can't only be described with the word big. What is a martial master? A martial master. What is a martial master? Where is the qualification? The fundamental reason for this is that cultivators who have reached the level of martial master are able to find out the imperfections and flaws of the world's moves. Especially when it comes to their own moves, they will be able to detect and correct the imperfections and flaws on their own. Only the word correct can be called a master. Otherwise, how can he teach his disciple? In fact, as long as he has this characteristic, he has already met the basic requirements of a martial master. And your brother reached this level yesterday afternoon. Now that his meridians have been unblocked, it is an inevitable process. It has increased his power a little, but it is not important. The most important thing now is to see if he can refine his cultivation base again in the remaining 1.5 days. Mu Yanyan's expression was very indifferent. For her, no matter how amazing Zhuo Xiaoduo's progress was, it was still not enough to enter her eyes. It was even completely unimportant. What was really important was the state of mind of her disciple, Zhuo Xiaoyan. Mu Yanyan felt that it was a pity that Zhuo Xiaoyan had given the greedy wolf's heart to Zhuo Xiaoduo, but she did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. It was just a reasonable action of an elder sister to protect her younger brother. What made her feel that it was inappropriate was Zhuo Xiaoyan's request to help Zhuo Xiaoduo digest. However, seeing that this girl was about to break through and needed to be calm, she could only comply with her this time. Starting from the next night, Meng Qinyu officially withdrew from Zhuo Xiaoduo's special training. It was not that the agreed time between her and Zhuo Xiaoyan was up. Originally, Zhuo Xiaoyan's condition was that she had to persist for 2 days and 2 nights to help train Zhuo Xiaoduo. But now, it was only 2 days and 1 night, and Meng Qinyu had to withdraw. It was not that she could not persist, but her state did not allow her to continue. Zhuo Xiaoyan also did not dare to let her continue. Meng Qinyu was about to go crazy. She was so angry with Zhuo Xiaoduo that she did not know what to do. If she continued to stay with Zhuo Xiaoduo, Meng Qinyu was very worried that she would suddenly lose her mind due to anger. She would not be able to control herself and slap Zhuo Xiaoduo to death. Of course, it was also possible that she was so angry that she went crazy. Anyway, it was fine if she could not get it. In reality, if she had not continuously poured down Zhuo Xiaoduo's belly full of spiritual liquid for bathing, she would not have been able to persist for so long. And Zhuo Xiaoyan confirmed this point and decisively terminated Meng Qinyu's right to assist in training. In order to give brother a chance to eat. She actually paid such a great price. Meng Qinyu felt that she had suffered a great loss this time. She was not an idiot. After her anger calmed down, she naturally understood the truth behind the so-called bathing water. This sort of bathing water, over 80% of the cultivators in the world would gladly drink it every day. Even with Meng Qinyu's wealth as the second generation of a wealthy family, she still felt the pinch. This bastard drank so much that even his sweat was spiritual liquid. He actually held it in and did not pee. How stingy is he? However, as long as senior sister Nian can become sister-in-law, it is worth it. Even if I have to pay a little more, it is worth it. Even if it is a few times more, it is still worth it. The next contestant was the finale. The most important. Mu Yanyan personally took action. Facing Mu Yanyan, Zhuo Xiaoduo's attitude became much better. His face was cute and obedient, and his mouth was as sweet as honey and sugar. This caused Meng Qinyu, who had wanted to see Zhuo Xiaoduo get beaten up, to nearly spit out a mouthful of blood. There was such a difference in treatment. Zhuo Xiaoduo. You bully me. Meng Qinyu's mood was on the verge of collapse. Around 7:00 in the evening, the third watch. Requesting a recommendation ticket. Chapter 50. Senior Mu. I really can't say the word senior. You clearly look about the same age as my sister. I'm afraid you're even younger than my sister. You're really beautiful. My heart is filled with respect when I look at you. I just want to look up to you. I've dreamed of fairies before, but I feel that the fairies in my dreams are not as beautiful as you. No, it's not that they're not as beautiful as you. They're far from being as beautiful as you. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in this world. Really? Although I'm only 17, I've watched a lot of movies and TV shows over the years. I feel like I've seen quite a few beauties, but you're really much more beautiful than those celebrities. Just this aura alone is enough to make you look like a fairy in the clouds. I'm really not exaggerating. I really have a feeling. You're the most beautiful woman in the last 35 million years in the astral soul's continent. You're really too beautiful. Yes, yes. In this world, there are very few people who are as righteous as you. They have their own way of thinking and don't accept compliments from others. You're right. My palms, legs, and footwork still have too many shortcomings. Please don't be stingy with your guidance. If there's anything that I can't master, feel free to beat me up. I can handle it. I'll definitely learn from you. To be able to learn from you is definitely a blessing that I've cultivated for 8 lifetimes. AI, my sister is really lucky to be able to learn from you every day. I'm really envious. Looking at the image and sound from the surveillance camera, Meng Qinyu's small mouth opened to an unimaginable degree. Her 2 pretty eyes almost popped out of their sockets. On the screen, there was a fragrant mouth, a flowery tongue, and words that were as sweet as honey. It was so sweet that it could kill, but it was also as gentle as water. Every sentence was filled with sincerity. Listening to it, one could tell that these words came from the heart. That person. This. Was this still the same Zhuo Xiaoduo who had a mouth like a cesspit, a face like a demon, and an endless stream of profanities? He scolded her for half an hour without stopping, breathing, or repeating himself. Was this still the same fierce Zhuo Xiaoduo who fought her with all his might? Was this still senior sister? Your younger brother is quite interesting. Meng Qinyu said in an enigmatic tone, this ass-kissing, it's a series of back-and-forth moves. Changing the angle, it really is difficult for him. Even more difficult is that each word seems to come from his heart. Look at how he has coaxed our master. TSK, this is the first time I have seen Master smile so brilliantly. That was right. On the screen, Mu Yanyan's face was unprecedentedly happy. Her cold and aloof expression when she first entered had long disappeared. Her voice was much softer and even a little gentle. Even her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes looked so gentle. He was even more attentive when he pointed out Zhuo Xiaoduo's mistakes. What's more, he used the spring wind and rain to moisten things silently. He even got into a fighting stance and performed a set of boxing moves. Seeing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo was even more impressed and flattered him endlessly. One was teaching, and the other was learning. The atmosphere was harmonious to the point that Meng Qinyu's heart began to ache. Master has never been so gentle to me. Zhuo Xiaoduo's face was filled with envy and jealousy. My elder sister really is lucky. My elder sister really is lucky to have such a good master. No wonder my elder sister improved so quickly. It was all because of master's efforts. Originally, when others praised my elder sister as a genius, I felt sad. I am not much worse than her, so why is it that my path of cultivation is bumpy? Now I know that it is because I do not have a good master. How is it that my elder sister is a genius? It is clearly because master taught her well. I have been bored here for a long time. Now that you have said it, I understand. I really envy my elder sister to the point of tears. Too wonderful. Too wonderful. So it can be like this. Wow, really? Really? I don't even know what to say. Yes, I was too stiff earlier. Look again. Oh, you have enlightened me. You have enlightened me. I am not that smart. The most excessive thing was that while flattering Mu Yanyan, he also looked for opportunities to hit her while she was down. Truly amazing. I understood as soon as I heard it. When I was fighting with little sister Meng, it seemed that there was a problem with her use of this move. I understand everything now. Yes, I'm enlightened. To learn martial arts, one has to endure hardships. This is the path that every strong person must go through. However, little sister Meng is still a little arrogant. However, I can completely understand. If I was born in their family, I reckon that I would be able to burn up the heavens. It's a waste of a great teacher like you. Ha ha ha. Right, my family is poor. My elder sister and I can only rely on our own efforts. I am also working hard to learn from my elder sister. Yes, every time my elder sister comes home, she will say how good her master is. At first, I did not believe her. It was me who was narrow-minded. I truly deserve to die. How could I have doubted? Really, your patience and kindness give me the feeling of a mother. I really want to stay at your side. I will pour you tea and take care of you. I really fear that you will not be able to live well outside and will be wronged. I can do anything. Although my elder sister can do it better than me, there are some things that are inconvenient for a girl. I can play the guitar, I can play the violin, I can play the eru, I can interact with all kinds of people, I can also warm. Really, you have this kind of power that makes people not want to leave you. Meng Qinyu roared in front of the screen, Master. You must wake up. You must not fall for this detestable little demon's trick. This little demon is too detestable. He is clearly using flowery words to deceive you. Master, wake up a little, Meng Qinyu was filled with grief and indignation. But the Mu Yen on the screen was even more meticulous, even more patient, even more gentle, and even more attentive. Now, use all of your explosive power. Combine your palms, legs, and footwork together. Give it your all. I only ask for one thing. That is, you must use up all of your strength before you finish or can't finish. Mu Yen made her request with a smile. Then, she even gently asked, Can you do it? Yes. Zhou Xiaoduo puffed out his chest and tried his best to put on a manly appearance. It was probably the kind of appearance that made people want to pinch his face. On the screen, Mu Yen clearly had this idea. She had already reached out her hand, but she controlled herself and pulled it back. But her face was still gentle. Senior sister, your little brother is like this. Are you really not going to do anything? Meng Qinyu pulled her hair and asked with a face of despair. Zhou Xiaoyan's face was full of interest. She leisurely said, Is there a problem with what Xiaoduo said? If you feel that there is something wrong with what he said, you can directly tell Master. I will definitely not stop you. Go ahead. What? What did you say? You said that your little brother is right? Meng Qinyu's eyes were full of disbelief. It was as if she suddenly did not recognize Zhou Xiaoyan. Could it be that you feel that there is something wrong? Meng Qinyu was stunned for a long time. She no longer looked like she was about to collapse. Instead, her whole body was about to collapse. She said with a trembling voice, Sister Xiaoyan, I misjudged you. You actually dug such a big hole for me. Before she finished speaking, she turned around and ran out. Zhou Xiaoyan had a faint smile on her face. She was not offended at all. She stared at the screen with a satisfied face. As the person who understood Zhou Xiaoduo the most, Zhou Xiaoyan naturally understood the reason why Zhou Xiaoduo did this. First, he could use the fastest speed to learn things. Second, he could let Mu Yen teach him with all her heart. Third, he mentioned her in and out. It was nothing more than telling Mu Yen how much he respected Master. At home, he often talked about how good Master was, so that Mu Yen would be more intimate with him. Later on, I really envy my sister. I really envy my sister to the point of tears. My sister's excellence is all because of Master's teaching. These words were simply reminding Mu Yen over and over again. My sister's love for you is genuine. She really respects and loves you. He was paving the way for himself. Zhou Xiaoyan felt indescribably warm in her heart. Although her brother's method was a little overboard, it was definitely effective. Moreover, she had always been cold in front of her master. To put it nicely, she was learning from her master. But in the end, she lacked the intimacy with her master, and she did not secretly act coquettishly with her master like Meng Qinyu. If she let her master know that she had such a respectful and loving side to her behind other people's backs, she would definitely be happy. It was hard for anyone to resist the good feelings brought about by this contrast. Little doggy, you really put in a lot of effort. It was when he said that his master was the most beautiful woman. He knew that it was a compliment, but why did he feel a little jealous? Humph, you must have forgotten something. Zhuo Duo tried his best, but before he could even finish, he had already used up all of his energy. Then Mu Yanyan personally took action. Using the power of her star spirit, she helped Zhuo Duo comb through his meridians. This result shocked Zhou Xiaoyan. This kind of thing, how many years had it been since her master did this? Probably after she became her disciple, she did not do this anymore, right? Thinking back to when Xiao Duo first came, she clearly looked down on Xiao Duo's talent. And when Mu Yanyan used her power and came into contact with Zhuo Duo's meridians, she was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, a shock hit her heart. Zhuo Duo's meridians were not right. No, it should be too wrong. When I was writing this chapter, I kept lamenting. When I was working, if I had Zhuo Duo's power, I am afraid that I would have reached the point where I could do that. Infinite regret. So please, everyone, give me some tips to comfort me. I was too stupid and lost my future. Chapter 51. When Mu Yanyan's finger touched Zhuo Duo's meridians, she was shocked. Her finger trembled and almost fell off from Zhuo Duo's wrist. How could a martial arts master Xiao have such meridians? If the meridians of a normal martial arts master were a 2-lane road, then Zhuo Duo's meridians were at least as wide as 8 lanes. What's more, compared to a normal martial arts practitioner's meridians tenacity, Zhuo Duo's meridians tenacity was far superior. It was like the difference between a rural road and a highway. What kind of concept was an 8-lane highway? What kind of concept was an 8-lane highway that could be expanded at any time with green belts on both sides? The difference between heaven and earth was not enough to describe the huge shock. However, what really shocked Mu Yanyan was the flexibility of Zhuo Duo's meridians. Even Mu Yanyan had never seen it before. At least in Mu Yanyan's knowledge, a martial arts master shouldn't have such meridians. Zhuo Duo's meridians tenacity was almost comparable to Meng Qinyu's, and Meng Qinyu was now in the embryonic breathing realm. Reaching the martial arts master level meant entering the acquired realm. There was hope to enter the innate realm, surpassing the peak of a normal martial arts practitioner. This peak was the innate realm, which was half a step above the martial arts master realm. The 3 innate realms, beginning stage, intermediate stage, and advanced stage, were the starting point for a martial arts practitioner to start from scratch. After reaching the advanced stage of the innate realm, one would enter the thorny road, and the practice would be even more dangerous. Only after a long period of practice, one would leap over the dragon's gate, walk the thorny road, and climb the ladder. Only then would one have the chance to break through to the higher level of the embryonic breathing realm. Between Zhuo Duo and Meng Qinyu, there was such a big gap. It was a very, very big gap. According to Mu Yanyan's judgment when she first met Zhuo Duo needed at least 10 years of hard practice to reach Meng Qinyu's current level. Yes, 10 years of hard practice was only a possibility. But now the reality was that Zhuo Duo's meridians had already reached the basic requirement of the embryonic breathing realm. What did this mean? What did this mean? Mu Yanyan sighed in her heart as she ran her qi to check. She even had some resentment towards Zhuo Duo's parents. This child is a rare genius. It could even be said that she was a genius who was not inferior to Zhuo Xiaoyan. You turned a blind eye to such a talented child and didn't spend much effort to nurture him. As a result, he only started at the age of 17. It was a complete waste of resources. How much does your family value girls over boys? Although your daughter isn't your biological daughter, so it's normal to spoil her a little, but you can't possibly treat your own son so badly, right? What a pity. It was such a pity. Mu Yanyan couldn't help but separate a trace of spiritual power to check Zhuoxiaoduo's Dantian astral souls. When he looked, he was shocked. Why are astral souls so weak? Zhuoxiaoduo's astral souls were only a weak flame that was burning. This shouldn't be the case. Ordinary people, as long as they become martial masters, won't be so weak. What's more, how can such a small amount of astral souls support such meridians? Mu Yanyan was puzzled. Also, ordinary people's astral souls are white, but why is the fire of this little guy's astral souls purple? Purple astral fire, she had never seen it before. After a long time, Mu Yanyan finished her inspection. She actually felt that her brain was in a mess. Even with her extensive experience, she couldn't understand what she had inspected. Now let's fight. Use your full strength to attack me, and use this to polish your muscles and bones. Mu Yanyan said in a low voice. After that, Mu Yanyan carried Zhuoxiaoduo and put him into the recovery cabin. Shut up and don't drink anymore. Mu Yanyan couldn't help laughing. You little cunning guy, you can't drink this spiritual liquid anymore. Before you really broke through the martial master level, even if you swallowed a large amount of spiritual liquid, it would only be temporarily stored in your body and transformed into your foundation. But you have successfully broken through the martial master level, and if you drink more spiritual liquid, the energy will be stored in your muscles and meridians instead of being transformed into your foundation. It will only waste the energy. Zhuoxiaoduo agreed. But after entering the cabin, he still couldn't bear to and secretly drank 2 mouthfuls. What's wrong with wasting it? It's not mine. Mu Yanyan was speechless. How greedy is this guy? He won't stop until he catches a sheep and fleeces it. Mu Yanyan would only despise this kind of character that would rather die than suffer a loss if it was before Xiaoduo flattered her. But now, she sighed and laughed in her heart, as well as a little helplessness. Well, let him be. It's not a big deal. Xiao Nian had made an agreement with Qinyu, and he had already drunk so much spiritual liquid. What was the point of drinking a little more now? Somewhere in Phoenix City. In a tea room. There were 3 people. Greedy Wolf's clone was destroyed. Have you found out the reason? 7 Kills has been out for 2 days and 2 nights, but they haven't encountered any organized resistance or preparation to capture them. Only a busybody patrolled the north for 2 nights. It seems that the destruction of Greedy Wolf's clone was a coincidence. Then when will Greedy Wolf send someone? Did he say? I told them long ago that the real body was coming. But he only sent a clone. He can't do anything right. After being the leader of the 9 sects for so many years, he has become so arrogant. What's the use of a clone? This Greedy Wolf really can't do anything right. He can't do anything right. Are you sure there's no sign of the Phoenix Meridian? Not yet. Last time, Blind Hong was forced by us to observe the Phoenix Meridian and lost 30 years of his lifespan. Only then did he see it this year. But now, I'm afraid he might not agree to look again. If he looks again, he might lose his life. When will the Spirit Meridian Master that I asked you to invite arrive? He's on the way. He must be fast. If the Phoenix Meridian Chi here soars into the sky and we are unable to intercept it, it will definitely cause a series of consequences. There must be a corresponding person for the Phoenix Meridian Chi. Who is this person? Have you found out? In the past few years, 9 female geniuses have appeared in Phoenix City. In such a small city, the density of female geniuses is too abnormal. This is the effect of the Phoenix Meridian. 6 of them have already been killed by us. There are 3 left. One of them is the goddess of spiritual thoughts. We can't find any information about her. There's also the daughter of Meng Group's Meng Tianyu, Meng Chenyu. There's also the daughter of the Ning family, Ning Xiaoyu. Your information is too outdated. Ning Xiaoyu has already changed her name. She's now called Ning Qingcheng. As for Meng Qinyu, she's definitely not her. Then it's Ning Qingcheng and the goddess of spiritual thoughts? We can basically confirm that it's the goddess of spiritual thoughts. But now, we don't know the origin of this goddess of spiritual thoughts. Since her astral souls awakened, all information has been kept secret. That's because you didn't pay attention. The leader said lightly, we already have the whereabouts of the goddess of spiritual thoughts. However, we still have to worry about the transfer of the Phoenix Meridian spirit. To make a perfect arrangement, we must kill and gather the wolves. Send a message to the greedy wolves. They must send someone here within a month. The Master of Stars will come to Phoenix City in a month. If the greedy wolves don't arrive by then, let them consider the consequences. Okay. Also, find out who killed the greedy wolves and why. We must know the reason. At the very least, we must locate the greedy wolf's heart. Otherwise, when the greedy wolves come, we won't be able to explain it. Okay. On the third day, the special training ended. Under Mu Yanyan's intentional or unintentional connivance, Zhou Xiaoduo entered the healing cabin many times, so that more than half of the spiritual liquid inside was gone. At a rough glance, it was almost 1 cubic meter less. In the last period of time, Zhou Xiaoduo simply spent it in the healing cabin. When he left, he walked out with a round belly. He grabbed Mu Yanyan's hand, with tears in his eyes, reluctant to part with her. This scene was like a son who was about to be separated from his mother after being separated for 18 years and was about to be separated on the first day. I can't bear to part with you. The next morning, the sun shone obliquely, reflecting on Zhou Xiaoduo's face. The young man's face was full of sincere reluctance. Mu Yanyan couldn't help but soften her heart. She patted Zhou Xiaoduo's head and said, in the future, when you have nothing to do, come here with your sister to play. If you don't understand anything about cultivation, ask your sister, or contact me directly. Yes, yes. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded. His face was so cute that people couldn't help but feel happy from the bottom of their hearts. Meng Qinyu, who was following behind, instinctively rolled her eyes. She had an inexplicable impulse to hit him in the face. This bastard, who was full of dirty words and had mastered the skill of swearing, actually dared to pretend to be cute. But her master was falling for this trick. How could he be reasonable? The morning sun shone on Zhou Xiaoduo's face, but a small part of it also shone on Mu Yanyan's face opposite him. Half of her beautiful face was reflected in the sun, while the other half was hidden in the shadow, forming a very poignant beauty. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly thought of something and subconsciously looked at the three women. Looking at the three women, he found that their qi was different. Among them, Zhou Xiaoyan's complexion was the worst. The pure black qi was still there, and it was getting thicker and thicker. When he looked at Mu Yanyan, Zhou Xiaoduo was surprised to find that her complexion was not much better than Zhou Xiaoyan's. Zhou Xiaoduo wanted to look at Meng Qinyu again, but he saw that Meng Qinyu had already turned around and didn't want to talk to him at all. It didn't matter if she didn't look. Anyway, he had seen enough in the past few days. Although Meng Qinyu's complexion was not as dangerous as Mu Yanyan's and Zhou Xiaoyan's, she also had a bad luck. Just as he was about to say goodbye, Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly covered his head and swallowed back the moan that was about to escape his mouth. That was a moan that was full of comfort. Naturally, it was not convenient to say it out loud, especially at this time. The source of the comfort was a complete drop of cool spiritual liquid. It fell between his eyebrows as if it had come out of nowhere. That familiar cool feeling instantly filled the meridians of his whole body. It made his originally swollen meridians feel a lot more comfortable. Zhou Xiaoduo closed his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. He understood something. This should be because Teacher Lu and the others came back safely. While they were fine, it meant that he had succeeded in changing his fate. Only then did he get a drop of cool spiritual liquid. It was just that this cycle was a little long. It took a full 3 days to finish. He didn't know what they had experienced and what they had gained. But this drop of cool spiritual liquid came at the right time. I was just about to look at Mu Yanyan. Previously, he was reluctant to use the 1.5 drops, but now, actually, he didn't want to do it so early. But no one could guess. If they couldn't guess, they would think that it was water. This was inevitable. After all, what was the meaning of writing so much? They couldn't understand. So the clue was given. Let's use our brains. Seeing that I was so diligent in setting it up, how about some recommendation votes? Chapter 52. Zhuxiao's guess was right. Just 10 minutes ago. Lu Jiansheng and the other 10 people returned to the school exhausted. They rushed all the way to teacher Qin's office. Old Qin. Lu Jiansheng's image wasn't very good. His beard had been burned off, and his face was riddled with scars. His 9 brothers weren't in a good condition either. They were all covered in wounds, but the 10 of them were in high spirits. They didn't seem to be in the least bit dispirited because of their injuries and exhaustion. The reason they were so excited was simple. They had gained a lot from this trip. It was a lot beyond their imagination. You're back. That's great. Qin Fangyang's heart that had been hanging for a long time finally relaxed. We're back. We didn't even go to the principal's place. We came directly to you to report that we're safe. Lu Jiansheng's face was full of fatigue. Where's your student? Invite him over for a chat. We have to thank him properly. You'll have to wait a few days to see him. He had something to do at home, so he asked for leave. Qin Fangyang asked, how was the harvest this time? The harvest this time is not bad. I reckon it will keep the guys in the logistics department busy for 2 months. Lu Jiansheng laughed. It's good news that you're back safely. It's also good news that you've gained a lot. But I have bad news to tell you. Qin Fangyang's face was very heavy. In the past few days, all the adventure teams that went out of the city, whether it was teams from other schools, private gangs, teams formed by a few large financial groups, or many small private organizations. Lu Jiansheng and the other 10 people heard this and immediately became nervous. What's wrong? Did something happen? South of the city, west of the city, and east of the city. The teams that went to these 3 directions were almost completely wiped out, and there were very few survivors. Just now, we've received confirmation that 735 adventurers have been confirmed to have met with misfortune. 735. The 10 people were stunned by this shocking news. They all widened their eyes in disbelief. How many people in the entire Phoenix City went out to search for treasures? Then, what about Wang Feilong? What about his brothers and the Flying Dragon team? Lu Jiansheng's voice became hoarse. He asked with a slim hope. The bad news I'm talking about is Wang Feilong's Flying Dragons. Qin Fangyang patted Lu Jiansheng's shoulder and said sorrowfully, my condolences. Their bodies have all been found. Fortunately, they died a quick death and didn't suffer much. After hearing this, Lu Jiansheng's tall and sturdy body swayed twice, and he lowered his head abruptly. However, 2 drops of tears still flowed out of her eyes and fell to the ground with a "pa" sound. The other 9 brothers also lowered their heads at the same time. When they parted that day, the laughter of those people from the Flying Dragon squad still seemed to echo in his ears. Big Lion, come back and drink with me. Roar! At that time, the sun was setting in the west and the setting sun was as red as blood. They chased each other, laughed, and walked away energetically. That day, they parted forever. What the hell is going on? Lu Jiansheng slid weakly onto the chair. We don't know the details for now. According to the information we have, a few experts should have appeared and hunted down the adventurers wantonly, snatching the stones of astral souls that the adventurers had already obtained. Almost all the adventurers who went hunting in the east, west, and south were not spared. There were heavy casualties. Qin Fangyang said, since yesterday, the the Phoenix City Guard Mansion has sent over 1,000 law enforcement teams to search for the culprits. Unfortunately, they haven't found any traces of the culprits so far, not even the slightest clue. The culprits have been killing for 2 days and 2 nights. Now, the roads in the south, west, and east of the city have been blocked off. Who on earth did this? Lu Jianqing roared angrily and slammed his palm on the table. Qin Fengyang quickly blocked it with his own hand. Calm down. It's said that there's a high chance that it's a spy from the UMNO alliance. Qin Fengyang's expression was extremely serious. Someone mentioned it, and it seems like it's 7 kills. 7 kills? Everyone was shocked. So, after coming back this time, don't go out for a while. The school will definitely not allow you to go out again. The 10 of them fell into silence at the same time. Their good mood from before had long since vanished. We were actually intercepted in the north. However, at the crucial moment, a man in white appeared. His sword light covered the north court and scared those people away. A spy from the UMNO alliance? Why did they snatch so many stones of astral souls? Can they transport them? Lu Jianqing's face was full of hatred. If it's 7 kills, killing people is enough. Qin Fengyang said calmly, as long as there's some storage equipment with a large space, transporting them won't be a problem at all. Boss, we want to avenge little fatty. The 9 of them gritted their teeth. The bearded Lu Jianqing's face was bleak. Avenge? I want to too, but with our cultivation in the embryonic breathing realm and our age, revenge is definitely hopeless. He lowered his head and said softly, in the future, when we go on a mission, no matter what the mission is, among the 10 of us, one must stay behind to take charge. Later, after we hand over the harvest, we will go to De Long's family and help with the funeral arrangements. For those brothers who have no siblings and no one to take care of the elderly at home, we will do our best. For those who have children, in terms of raising and educating them, we will not be stingy. In the future, one of us will stay behind to guard. In case something happens to the other 9, the remaining one will be able to take care of the affairs of these brothers, their wives, children, and parents. From now on, let's fade out. Lu Jianqing's face was bleak and sad. Yes, boss. Lu Jianqing took out a package from his chest and placed it on the table. He gently pushed it in front of Qin Fengyang. Old Qin, we won't wait for Mr. Xiao Duo. We have something to do first. This is our gift of thanks to him. Please help us pass it on. Also, help us pass it on. The 10 of them stood up straight in unison. We will never forget the kindness of saving our lives. Lu Jianqing's way of addressing Zhuo Xiaoduo had become a respectful form of address. It was obvious that this unforeseen event had a great impact on him. I got it. This is your token of appreciation. I won't be pretentious and will accept it on his behalf. Qin Fengyang nodded and took out a thick envelope from the drawer. This is a token of appreciation for the brothers who died. Help me pass it on. All right. Lu Jianqing and the 10 of them went out. Standing under the bright and beautiful sun in the picturesque campus, they suddenly felt as if a lifetime had passed. This was a true escape from death in the truest sense. It was a pity that De Long and the others would never come back. Lu Jianqing had infinite regrets. At that time, why couldn't he have been more resolute and dragged Wang De Long with him? If he had been more resolute. The youngest brother wiped the sweat off his forehead. His throat was a little dry. Boss. East, west, south. The muscles on the faces of the others twitched. Everyone thought at the same time. If it hadn't been for that student's parting words, the 10 of them would probably be lying stiffly in the corpse cart now. Lu Jianqing wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Let's go. We'll go find the principal first and hand in the harvest. Then we'll go to De Long. By the way, tell me more about Mr. Little Duo's fortune-telling ability. It's second highest blessing to have such a master in our school. It's also everyone's fortune. Yes. Let's go. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly received a drop of cool luck point and instantly understood the cause and effect of this matter. For a moment, he couldn't help but feel like a nouveau riche. One had to know that he now had 2.5 drops of cool luck points. His value had doubled. Mu Yanyan and Zhou Xiaoyan's breakthrough were closely related. Originally, Zhou Xiaoduo wanted to tell her fortune and how to avoid it. But there was only 1 drop of luck point. He had to save it for Zhou Xiaoyan, and he couldn't give it to Miss Mu. Now there was 1 more drop. At this time, he was about to part with Mu Yanyan. Once he missed it, the opportunity would never come again. Zhou Xiaoduo made up his mind and focused his eyes on Mu Yanyan's face. In an instant, Zhou Xiaoduo clearly felt that cool feeling coming to his eyes. Then, a vague idea emerged in his consciousness. Mu Yanyan, the peak of the late stage of nascent soul, the cultivation of great guru. 2 months later, when Zhou Xiaoyan was breaking through, she fought to protect Zhou Xiaoyan and died. He still had to ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 53. Hiss. Zhou Xiaoduo sucked in a breath of cold air. Because of his confidence in his own method, Zhou Xiaoduo was full of doubts about everyone around Zhou Xiaoyan, including Mu Yanyan and Meng Qinyu. They could all be the murderers who murdered Zhou Xiaoyan. But Zhou Xiaoduo did not show any strange or any emotion. Because he clearly knew that at this moment, the only person Yan Yan could rely on was him. This time, he used the Qi Xian method to observe Mu Yanyan was based on this suspicion. But he never thought that he would see such a result. Mu Yanyan would also die. A cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul level, with the cultivation of a great grandmaster. There were only a few people with such strength in the whole Phoenix City. But such a strong person would die in the storm that he foresaw, and he died to protect Zhou Xiaoyan. Then, how strong would the enemy that Zhou Xiaoyan had to face be? This was more than terrifying. It was unimaginable. Even thinking about it would scare him to death. In the face of absolute power, even if there were thousands of clever plans, and infinite preparations, it would still be in vain. Zhou Xiaoduo's heart suddenly became many times heavier, and he almost could not breathe under the pressure. But he still kept his thoughts to the bottom of his heart, and he did not say anything. Xiaoduo. Mu Yanyan's voice was soft. You have just broken through to the martial master level. At this time, don't be impulsive. You have just broken through, and your state of mind is not stable. It is easy to be impulsive in the illusion. Settle down before you go. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo agreed seriously. Also, you should always wear the greedy wolf's heart in front of your chest. Use the original carrier of the greedy wolf's heart to digest the evil energy in your body. After all, it is the power of murder. Although you did not kill them, the evil energy still exists. When the blood stain on the greedy wolf's heart completely disappears and it becomes crystal clear, you can take it off or throw it away. Okay, thank you, Senior Mu. Finally, they left. The two of them strolled under the sun. Zhou Xiaoduo kept asking questions along the way. Zhou Xiaoyan, speak. Speak frankly. What exactly did you promise Meng Qinyu? Sister Nian Nian, what you're doing is wrong. It's wrong to negotiate conditions between fellow disciples. Senior and junior sisters should only cooperate and take care of each other. Aren't you using each other by doing this? I heard that Meng Qinyu has an older brother who has always liked you. Say something. What's going on? Are you mute? Zhou Xiaoduo was furious. This situation was very, very rare. At least in Zhou Xiaoduo's 17 years of life, he rarely got angry at Zhou Xiaoyan. You can find your own partner, fall in love, whatever you want. That's your freedom. But I won't allow you to use yourself to negotiate with others because of me. What's the meaning of that? Do you want to vomit me to death? If that's the case, I'd rather die than let you suffer such grievances. Say something. The more Zhou Xiaoduo asked, the angrier he got. Smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices as he bared his teeth and brandished his claws. Unfortunately, Zhou Xiaoyan kept a faint smile on her lips. Step by step, she walked forward without paying attention to him. Are you going to say it or not? Zhou Xiaoduo chased after her. As he chased, he asked, what exactly did you promise? Did you agree to go on a blind date? Or did you agree to get married? Or did you agree to? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Zhou Xiaoyan had sacrificed a lot. He couldn't help but feel extremely sad. As he felt more and more uncomfortable, Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly stopped. Zhou Xiaoduo, who was completely unprepared, bumped into her back. Zhou Xiaoyan turned around and said seriously and soberly, Xiaoduo, you've just stepped onto the path of martial arts cultivation. You're far from aware of how long the road ahead is. You don't even know how difficult this road is. And what is a good resource equivalent to for this road ahead? Zhou Xiaoduo looked at her blankly. No one will give away their own resources for free. If you want to get something, you have to pay the corresponding price. This price can be hard work and sweat. It can also be dignity and life. Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with helplessness. Did you know that Meng Qinyu's father, Meng Tianyue, invested hundreds of billions just in that training hall in order to provide a good cultivation environment for his daughter? And do you know what hundreds of billions mean? 2,000 star dollars is enough for an ordinary family to use once a year. It's more than enough. They've spent so much money. Why should they provide it for us to cultivate? We should just sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Zhou Xiaoyan sighed softly, conditions. If they agree to conditions, it's already a great bargain. Do you understand? Zhou Xiaoduo said with grief and indignation, I just want to know what conditions did you agree to? Zhou Xiaoyan said lightly, his brother has always wanted to treat me to a meal. A meal? Zhou Xiaoduo said vigilantly, that guy definitely has bad intentions. It's not as simple as a meal. It must be accompanied by drugs or something. Don't go. None of these rich second generations are good. They're all rotten to the core. Especially that junior sister of yours, Meng Qinyu. She's rotten to the core. Zhou Xiaoyan put her hands behind her back and walked briskly in front. Her steps were light and she was in a good mood. She jumped like a deer. He only treated Zhou Xiaoduo's endless chatter as if it was nothing more than wind passing by his ears. Sister Nian Nian. Zhou Xiaoduo followed her and said something bad with every step. Why haven't you heard that those rich second generations are all masters at playing with women? They're all very good at deceiving women. Haven't you seen the various reports? Who knows how many innocent girls have been deceived? They're just a bunch of liars. They do whatever they want just because they have some stinky money. Those rich second generations are really unreliable. At most, they're just good-looking, but they're definitely not as handsome as me. The rest of them are full of tricks. Their heads are full of thieves and prostitutes. These rich second generations. Zhou Xiaoyan walked in front and Zhou Xiaoduo followed behind her. His mouth was dry and his saliva was thick. Finally. I know what I'm doing. Don't worry. Zhou Xiaoyan said, if you're really worried, you can come with me when the time comes. Zhou Xiaoduo heard this and immediately said excitedly, good. When the time comes, I'll pretend to be your boyfriend or fiancé. Let's put on a show and make that damn guy give up. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhou Xiaoyan's pretty face was red. She looked at him with both anger and joy. If Meng Qinyu didn't know you, it might be possible. Unfortunately. I already said that Meng Qinyu is not a good thing. She's actually so generous. She's so brazenly pimping out her brother. Zhou Xiaoduo took the opportunity to add insult to injury. Bang! A clear headbutt. Zhou Xiaoyan's pretty face was angry, pimping. What do you think your sister is? Yo. I was wrong. Look at my mouth. Zhou Xiaoduo raised his hand and lightly slapped his mouth twice. He said with a face full of saliva, "I think of Sister Nian Nian as a fairy." He. Zhou Xiaoyan's face was sullen and she did not speak. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and moved closer, woof, woof, woof. "Don't be angry, woof, woof, woof." Pfft. Zhou Xiaoyan was completely caught off guard by this and almost laughed out loud. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo was exceptionally satisfied. From the moment Zhou Xiaoyan said, "When the time comes, I'll take you with me," Zhou Xiaoduo felt as if he was a general who had just won a great battle. That was called arrogant, complacent, high-spirited, and insufferably arrogant. Even his tail was about to curl up. Seeing his happy appearance, Zhou Xiaoyan rolled her eyes and lightly said, "Dog." I heard. Zhou Xiaoyan turned her head, her face gloomy. "I heard that your sister has cerebral palsy. Is her brain disabled?" Chapter 54. This question was like a bolt from the blue, hitting Zhou Xiaoduo on the head. The dizziness he felt was indescribable. Zhou Xiaoduo almost fell to the ground with his butt. His previous excitement immediately disappeared, leaving behind only a dazed and dispirited look. His mind was filled with two words: "It's over. It's over, it's over." Seeing Zhou Xiaoyan's embarrassed expression, Zhou Xiaoduo carefully began to flatter her. "Who said my sister is disabled? My sister is smart, beautiful, strong, and wise. Where did you hear this from? I'm going to settle this with him. I'm going now." Zhou Xiaoduo acted as if he was filled with righteous indignation. He lightly slapped his own mouth and continued to angrily shout, "This is a rumor, this is slander, this is deranged slander, this is simply too much, unforgivable. I must beat the bastard who started this rumor to death." He slapped himself lightly again and stole a glance at Zhou Xiaoyan. Zhou Xiaoyan snorted coldly, not saying a word. It seems like she doesn't want to pursue the matter. Zhou Xiaoduo was a little relieved. It seemed like Sister Nian was in a good mood. What a loss. "I won't forgive you." Zhou Xiaoyan's face was cold. "Then I..." Zhou Xiaoduo looked at her anxiously. "Unless you do that." Zhou Xiaoyan rolled her eyes. "Do that? I want to ride a horse." Zhou Xiaoyan pouted. "I'll punish you." "Okay." Zhou Xiaoduo was feeling guilty and in the wrong. When he heard that the punishment was so light that it wasn't even a punishment, he was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. Zhou Xiaoyan waved her hand like a general, looking valiant and heroic. "Where is my horse?" "Neigh." Zhou Xiaoduo let out a long neigh, shook his head and wagged his tail. He bent his arms and the horse stood up, stomping on the ground. The female general's movements were nimble. She flipped onto the horse, slapped Zhou Xiaoduo's butt, and yelled, "Go! Neigh! 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 Neigh!" Zhou Xiaoduo mimicked the sound of galloping horse with his mouth. The Zhou Xiaoduo brand horse galloped away with the female general on its back. Seeing Zhou Xiaoduo carrying Zhou Xiaoyan into the house, Zhou Changlu and Wu Yuding were speechless. "How old are you two?" Wu Yuding shouted angrily, "You two are getting more and more outrageous. Are you itching for a beating again?" The brother and sister had already stood there obediently with their heads bowed as they were scolded. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that their parents would still be at home when it was already 8:00 in the morning. Shouldn't they have gone out by now? "Behave yourselves," Zhou Changlu snorted. "I'll settle the score with you when you come back." Zhou Xiaoduo. "Go to school in the afternoon." They had been waiting for their children to come back. Now that they saw them come back safely, they were relieved. However, they immediately thought of Zhou Xiaoduo's 3-day special training. Naturally, they were not in a hurry to teach them a lesson. They would let them take a break first. Seeing that their parents had left in such a quiet manner, the siblings let out a long sigh of relief at the same time. They looked at each other and saw each other patting their chests as they said in unison, "You scared me to death." Zhou Xiaoduo coughed and turned his face away. It was fine if he patted himself, but Zhou Xiaoyan looked as if she had patted jelly. Cough, cough, cough. Zhou Xiaoduo instinctively swallowed his saliva. I'll go to the supermarket. Why? Buy some jelly to eat. I have some. I'll give it to you. Zhou Xiaoyan's words almost made Zhou Xiaoduo's nose bleed. They entered the room. The scene that greeted them made Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan stunned. After confirming that there was indeed a large solid wooden double bed in Zhou Xiaoduo's room, the two began to feel confused. They did not know if they were in a dream or if they had entered the wrong room. The next moment, Zhou Xiaoyan seemed to have thought of something. Her face immediately turned red. She pressed Zhou Xiaoduo's confused face onto the bed and said angrily, "Go back to sleep." "I want to go back to sleep too." Zhou Xiaoduo rolled on the bed and laughed. "It's so spacious and soft. Sister Nian Nian, do you want to?" Bah! Zhou Xiaoyan was already gone. Zhou Xiaoduo's total sleep time in the past 3 days did not exceed 4 hours, and he spent all of it in the recovery pod. As for Zhou Xiaoyan, she did not sleep at all for the past 3 days. She could not accompany Zhou Xiaoduo in the special training because it was meaningless for her to train Zhou Xiaoduo. Firstly, it was impossible for the siblings to exert all their strength in a life and death battle. Secondly, they could train together at any time. It was not suitable for them to train together in that place. It would be a waste. Therefore, it was not beneficial for Zhou Xiaoyan to train with Zhou Xiaoduo. However, Zhou Xiaoyan was still worried. She was afraid that her master and junior sister would accidentally hurt her brother. She insisted on watching from outside, just in case. After 3 days of the accident, Zhou Xiaoduo was really exhausted, and Zhou Xiaoyan was even more exhausted. Zhou Xiaoduo laid down on the bed. The moment his spine, which had been exhausted for 3 days and 3 nights, came into contact with the soft mattress, he instantly moaned in comfort. In the time it took for him to flip over, he had already fallen asleep. Zhou Xiaoyan appeared in a flash. She tiptoed and covered him with a blanket, then disappeared again. Zhou Xiaoduo slept soundly until 11:30. He woke up and went to school after eating. Zhou Xiaoyan did not appear at the dinner table, but the family was used to this. What Zhou Xiaoduo did not know was that Zhou Xiaoyan had once again returned to the cultivation hall. She was in the room where Zhou Xiaoduo had suffered for 3 days and 3 nights. She had begun a fierce battle. Her opponent was Meng Qinyu. As soon as Zhou Xiaoyan arrived, she said with a smile, "Junior sister apprentice, you've worked hard these days. As your senior sister apprentice, I don't have anything good to repay you. I can only spar with you and point out your weaknesses and shortcomings." Meng Qinyu did not doubt her and agreed. Her heart was filled with joy. But she quickly realized that something was not right. As soon as the spar began, Zhou Xiaoyan displayed a strength that far surpassed her own. Forcefully flying up, he did not miss a single detail and wildly beat up Meng Qinyu. What caused Meng Qinyu to complain even more was that Zhou Xiaoyan's actions were too measured. Meng Qinyu felt so much pain that she wished she was dead, but the actual injuries were minimal. Even if Meng Qinyu pretended to be dead and refused to get up, once she was thrown into the recovery pod, the sound of a complete recovery would come in 1 or 2 minutes. It seemed that the recovered Meng Qinyu could only continue to accept Zhou Xiaoyan's pointers, but the pain was clearly still there. It was still in effect. In fact, this situation was very easy to explain. After all, the healing pod was just a machine. Although it could heal injuries, it could not distinguish the hidden primordial qi that was deliberately left in the body to cause damage. It would cause pain but would not really harm the body. After a few rounds, Meng Qinyu wanted to cry but had no tears. She lay on the ground and refused to get up. Tears flowed out. "Woo woo. Senior sister Nian, you clearly want to make things difficult for me. What spar? Liar!" Meng Qinyu cried loudly. She was filled with grief and indignation. "How did I make things difficult for you? Making things difficult for me. Zhuxiaoyan slowly walked out. You can't blame me for this. It was Master who said that your progress during this period of time has been too slow and sloppy. Aside from wanting to play, there is nothing else in your heart. He wanted me to teach you a lesson and let you know the consequences of not having enough strength. In the future, we will spar twice a day. I will urge you. Meng Qinyu cried and said, Senior sister. Then what you promised me? Zhuxiaoyan angrily said, Did I not already tell you that when I am in a good mood? When will you be in a good mood? When these words were asked, there was no one in front of her anymore. After Zhuxiaoyan finished speaking, she left the room and swaggered off. Humph, little girl, you actually beat my family's dog so fiercely. How dare you? If I do not give you a good beating and let you remember it, would I still be Zhuxiaoyan? At this moment, Zhuxiaoyan had already forgotten the fact that she had asked someone to beat her little brother. Her heart was filled with the joy of finally getting revenge for my dog. Only I can beat my family's dog. Even when father and mother beat him, I feel uncomfortable. Who do you think you are? Humph, humph, humph. As for when I will be in a good mood. How would I know when I will be in a good mood? Zhuo Xiaoduo had just walked into the classroom. Looking around, she was immediately shocked. What he saw were the remnants of the defeated soldiers in the classroom. Long Yusheng, Wan Lixiu, Yu Moyan, Li Changming, Li Chenglong. And so on. There were 35 people, all of them had pig heads and pig faces, and their faces were all bruised and swollen. Among them, there were a few bleeding heads and bodies. It was a scene of devastation. Qin Fong Yang's face was gloomy as he treated the injuries of the students. This. What happened? Zhuo Xiaoduo was shocked. Could it be that the war has already reached Phoenix City? Why didn't I hear about it? Qin Fongyang snorted, but completely ignored him. He continued to treat the students one by one, and then activated the healing array. Thick mist suddenly filled the classroom. All the students entered the atmosphere of healing with spiritual energy. Come out for a moment. Qin Fongyang called Zhuo Xiaoduo out of the classroom. Mr. Qin, what happened? Zhuo Xiaoduo was puzzled. Why is the room full of injured soldiers? Was there a group fight? But even if there was a group fight, the whole class shouldn't be empty. Qin Fongyang's face twitched. You don't have to worry about this. It has nothing to do with you. I have something else to talk to you about. How can I not care? That room is full of my little brothers. Zhuo Xiaoduo was anxious. Who dares to beat up Master's little brothers? Are they rebelling? Today is the birthday of our cute little brother, Beiying. Let's wish him a happy birthday. So, please recommend him. Chapter 55. Qin Fongyang looked at this guy with a strange expression. How dare you say that? You're only ranked 19th, and you're not even in the middle. Yet, you have the nerve to call the entire class your lackeys. How thick-skinned are you, how thick-skinned are you? Here's 20,000 star dollars. Qin Fongyang pushed out an envelope. This is a thank you gift from Professor Lu Jiansheng and the rest. 20,000. That's a lot. Zhuo Xiaoduo's eyes lit up at once. His eyes were shining. To the current Zhuo Xiaoduo, this was an astronomical figure. It was a windfall from the sky. His attention was diverted in an instant. Wow, wow. Professor Lu and the rest are too kind. Then, Zhuo Xiaoduo dipped his finger in his saliva and began to count the money. 100, 200, 340. Qin Fongyang was speechless. What's the meaning of this? Do you think I'm going to embezzle your money? Do you have to count it in front of me? With great difficulty, Zhuo Xiaoduo finished counting. After confirming that there was no mistake, he carefully put the windfall into an envelope and stuffed the envelope into his pocket. Suddenly, a bulging lump of money appeared in his pocket, making him feel a little panicked. However, he was happy from the fall. I like the feeling of panicky from the fall. It'll be great if I can experience it every day. As he thought about it, Zhuoxiaoduo's mouth cracked open. He said with a smile, Professor Qin, didn't you ask me what I wanted to do in my life? I've thought of it now. Qin Fengyang looked at him suspiciously. What did you think of then? Zhuoxiaoduo stroked the outside of his pocket and said proudly, my biggest dream in life is to make everyone say the same thing when they see me. Isn't Zhuoxiaoduo just a little stinky money? Zhuoxiaoduo stroked his pocket with infatuation. He felt the weight of the money and let out a long sigh. That will be the peak of my life. There's nothing else I want in my life. After hearing Zhuoxiaoduo's bold words, Qin Fengyang exploded. Here's the gift they asked me to pass to you. Qin Fengyang resisted the urge to look at this miser's face. He suppressed the urge to punch this miser's face, which was filled with reverie, and pushed out an animal skin bag. This animal skin bag was very heavy. When it was pushed flat on the table creaked under its weight. This is the Stone of Astral Souls? Zhuoxiaoduo was shocked. This entire bag of star spirit stones, regardless of market value or practical value, was far above the 20,000 star coins. Yes, this is the Stone of Astral Souls. This is part of their harvest this time, and they kept it for you. Qin Fengyang opened the bag. There are 10 pieces in total. 1 piece for each person. 10 people can pool together. Zhuoxiaoduo looked down and saw that each piece of Astral Souls stone was the size of 2 palms. Their appearance was relatively complete. Some were cubes, some were cuboids, and some were rhombus-shaped. There were only 3 pieces that were relatively irregular. Zhuoxiaoduo's family owned Astral Souls stones. Naturally, he knew the mystery of this thing. The appearance of the Stone of Astral Souls was the most important factor in determining the value of the Stone of Astral Souls. The Stone of Astral Souls stone fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. It was a stone with edges and corners that could still be relatively complete. Usually, there were good things hidden in it and it was worth a lot. These 10 Stone of Astral Souls stones were in a completely oxidized state. Their shells were delicate and tight, and it was impossible to see what was inside. However, there was a faint dark red luster on the surface, which made their value double. The total weight of these 10 stones, which were the size of 2 palms, was more than 3,000 kilograms. This was enough to prove that the density of the items hidden in them was very high. The higher the density, the higher the possibility of a high-quality jade of Astral Souls stone being opened. In Zhuoqianglu's shop, stones like these could be sold for at least 20,000 star coins, 1 piece. Yes, 20,000 star coins for 1 piece. At least. In other words, the stones that Lu Jiansheng and the rest gave out were undoubtedly worth 200,000 to 300,000 star coins to Zhuoxiaoduo. Ha ha ha. How can I accept this? Zhuoxiaoduo's mouth was already smiling from ear to ear. His eyes were shining with golden light. He leaned on the table and said with an intoxicated expression, how can I accept this, ha ha ha. Teacher Lu and the rest are too polite. Really too polite, ha ha ha. They gave him luck points spiritual liquid, Stone of Astral Souls, and cash. The teachers in the school were indeed everyone's role models. Otherwise, how could they become teachers? Didn't he just say a few words and they gave him so many good things in return? Why didn't they give him such a free gift a few more times? It wouldn't be too much even if they gave him 8 or 10 times a day. Don't you think they're too polite? Qin Fengyang's face twitched. He looked at this guy who was holding the entire Stone of Astral Souls in his arms and couldn't wait to swallow it. He pursed his lips and said, if you really feel embarrassed, I'll help you return half of it. Zhuoxiaoduo immediately wrapped up the parcel again and said seriously, how can I return this? I can't give the teachers a discount for their kind intentions. What's the old saying again? Oh right, this is called the elders giving it to me, I don't dare to refuse. Qin Fengyang took a deep breath and exhaled deeply. Okay, that's all. If there's nothing else, you can go back to the classroom. Qin Fangyang supported his head with one hand, blocking all the peripheral vision that he could see Zhuo Xiaoduo. He was afraid that he would miss even half a glimpse of Zhuo Xiaoduo. Yeah. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Xiaoduo tried his best to hold the parcel in his hands and carried it on his back. Fortunately, he was now an official martial master. Otherwise, he might not be able to carry it. Even if he could, he wouldn't be able to walk far. That was more than 3,000 caddies of weight. Although it's a little heavy, I don't mind it. I can carry even more. Even if you give me another 1,000,000, I can still carry it and fly. Zhuo Xiaoduo happily bid farewell to Mr. Qin, as if he didn't notice Mr. Qin's speechless expression. Goodbye, Mr. Qin. I'll go back first. Zhuo Xiaoduo tried his best to carry the heavy stone of astral souls back to the classroom. Actually, he could have left the stone of astral souls with Qin Fangyang and come back to take it after school. However, a miser like Zhuo Xiaoduo always felt that it was inappropriate and uncomfortable to leave his things with someone else. Actually, it's not that I'm worried about Mr. Qin. Zhuo Xiaoduo muttered as he carried the stone of astral souls into the classroom. The classroom was still full of injured people, and the smell of blood assailed his nostrils. Everyone was trying their best to endure the pain and receive the nourishment of spiritual energy. However, everyone's brows were furrowed in anger. What's going on? Zhuo Xiaoduo put the stone of astral souls under his seat, under his butt, and said, "Tell me, why do all of you look like you've just been taught a lesson?" Li Chenglong, who had always been at the back of the class, snorted and said, "It's nothing. It's just a small matter. It's nothing. If it's nothing, you're already like this. If it's something, won't people die?" Zhuo Xiaoduo glared at him. "Look at my bad temper. Hurry up and tell me what's going on. How can I not know about such a big thing that happened in our class? Do you still treat me as a member of the class? I'm the boss. What's going on?" Looking at the anger on everyone's faces, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that something big must have happened. After listening to Zhuo Xiaoduo's continuous questioning, Long Yusheng and the others finally couldn't take it anymore and told him the whole story. Here's the whole story. Next week, there would be a warrior class competition as usual. There were a total of 16 warrior classes in second high, and each class would send out a representative to fight in pairs. The winner class and the champion would be chosen from among them. This was a very normal thing, and it was a common practice among all the schools, even excluding the martial arts schools. This time, the 9th class drew lots to fight against the 7th class. Although the 9th class's overall strength was slightly weaker than the 7th class's, they were still on the same level. If they tried their luck, they might even win. But the problem was that this morning, little fatty Li Chenglong was invited to give a lecture to the first class as usual. As the name implied, the first class was a seed class, and all the outstanding young warriors were gathered in this class. There were only 50 people in the first class. They were the top 50 of the year's assessment. Because of this, the students in the first class were all arrogant and had their noses up high. Li Chenglong, as the hooligan of the 9th class, taught the geniuses of the first class as a teacher, and he felt very uncomfortable every time. Especially this time, a new round of the competition was imminent. Due to their special position, Class 1 was excluded from the competition. This made these fellows, who were exempted from the competition, feel a sense of superiority and boredom because they had nothing to do. Therefore, the little fatty's lecture this time was mocked by the group of students. One of them, Qing Fangji, insulted the little fatty, and the little fatty retorted. The conflict escalated until Qing Fangji said a few words that completely enraged the little fatty. Qin Fangyang can only teach a fatty like you, he can't teach a strong person. Your parents are also retarded, letting a trash like you come to a martial arts school, it's a waste of money. Insulting the teacher. Insulting the parents. These few words made the conflict between the two sides irreconcilable, and it directly exploded. It was after this sentence that the little fatty exploded. Then, he was beaten up. Moreover, he was beaten up very badly. In the end, the little fatty was grabbed by the ankle and thrown out of the classroom by Qing Fangji. The little fatty crawled all the way back to the 9th class, and the class was furious. They went to Qin Fangyang to complain about this matter. Although Qin Fangyang was angry about this matter, he couldn't interfere. According to the school's rules, students should deal with their own matters, and the teachers couldn't interfere. Long Yusheng, Wanli Xiu, and the others were indignant, and gathered 7 or 8 people to cause trouble in the first class, but they were beaten up again. The most explosive point was when the students of the first class rushed over and beat up all the students of the 9th class, without exception. Zhou Xiaoduo was furious. His hair stood on end. What the fuck? As usual, we are asking for recommendation tickets, bookmarking, spreading, and forwarding. Brothers, please go to Chidian website to support us. Thank you. Chapter 56. It was normal for 2 classes to have conflicts and fight in a martial arts school. However, it was the first time that someone had been beaten so badly and ended in such a humiliating way since the establishment of No. 2 high school. The whole class was filled with righteous indignation. The more they talked, the angrier they became. Long Yusheng covered half of his ear that had been pulled off and was trying to heal it. He gritted his teeth and said, "I won't forgive them sooner or later." As a girl, Wan Lixiu's nose was directly smashed and her eyes were swollen. After recovering her energy for a long time, the swelling in her throat had subsided a little and she was able to speak. "I'll beat them up sooner or later." The one who was beaten the most was not Long Yusheng, Wan Lixiu, or even Li Chenglong. It was another little fatty, Li Changming, who was almost expelled by Mr. Qin for sleeping in class. Because of the previous incident, he was still standing at the door as punishment. Everyone from the first class had rushed over to cause trouble, and Li Zhongming, who was at the forefront, was the first to intercept them. Li Zhongming, who was ranked 4th in the 9th class, didn't let his strength go to waste. He blocked the other party for a moment, buying some time for the others. However, in the end, he still couldn't stop the other party from swarming him. He directly beat the little fatty unconscious. He had not woken up yet. After hearing this, Zhou Xiaoduo directly exploded. "Damn, how dare you beat up people in our class? How dare you beat up my little brother? This is not over. We must beat them up." Zhou Xiaoduo stood up and was about to go out. 7 or 8 hands grabbed him. "Big brother, can you stop for a while? Are you going to die alone? Your age is big brother, but your strength is not. You will only be a punching bag if you go now. Wait. Let's think about it in the long run. When we recover, we will go together. If you go alone, you will be showing off. What's the use? Don't mention age to me." Age was Zhou Xiaoduo's reverse scale. Zhou Xiaoduo was both angry and amused. "Wait for you all to recover. What can you do when you recover? You didn't beat them in the morning. Can you beat them now? If I go with you, you will be beaten up again. What other uses does it have? I'll swallow this for now. I really can't beat him now. Being impulsive will only bring trouble to myself." Long Yusheng was a little dejected. Li Chenglong persuaded with a swollen face, "Everyone, don't be impulsive. Don't make the whole class so embarrassed because of me. Forget it. Forget it." Zhou Xiaoduo turned to look at Li Chenglong. "Forget it. I'm fine." Li Chenglong had an ugly smile on his face. "We'll all enter the martial arts master class together in the future, and we'll all go on missions together in the future. I'm just a useless guy with no future in martial arts. I guess I'll just be a teacher for the rest of my life. Why should I affect your future unity because of me?" Li Chenglong said in a low voice, "Thank you, students. Actually, I'm already very touched today. Everyone is so protective of me. But now that things had come to this, it was time to stop. Bear with it for a while and the wind will be calm and the waves will be calm. Take a step back and the world will be clear. Strength is king. What can we do if we don't bow down? The whole class sighed in unison. Their morale was at an all-time low. Zhou Xiaoduo snorted and rolled his eyes. It was not time for class yet. Amid the noise, Qin Fangyang came in. The afternoon class is cancelled. Focus on healing first. With the current state of the 9th class, it was indeed not suitable for class. It was not suitable for any class. It was time for class. The students from other classes who were running outside all rushed back to their classrooms. Even if the 9th class was not in class, the other classes still had to. The noisy campus quieted down in an instant. Zhou Xiaoduo got up from his seat and walked quickly to Long Yusheng's side. What? Send me a message. What message? Just like that. Qin Fangyang went back to his office. It was time for class to start, but the entire 9th class was healing together. The head teacher was also embarrassed. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Zhou Xiaoduo stood up slowly and walked out with his phone in his hand. Where are you going? Long Yusheng stood up. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I'm not happy to take a step back. Zhou Xiaoduo snorted. I'm going to the first class to find those bastards. Come back. The whole class shouted. You're no match for him. Don't be impulsive. Impulsiveness is the devil. It's better if you go after class. Going to class will show that I'm awesome. They don't take us seriously. Why should I give them face? Zhou Xiaoduo completely ignored everyone's advice, pushed open the door, and walked away. Long Yusheng and the others looked at each other. They did not know what to do. What should we do? What should we do? How would I know? What else can we do? Wan Lishou stood up suddenly. Then we'll all go. At most, we'll be beaten up again. Could it be that they were going to watch Zhou Xiaoduo get beaten up by Class 1's trash? Are you still men? I'm a man. Long Yusheng and Yu Moyan stood up. I'm a man too. The other male students stood up as well. Although I'm not a man, I'll go too. Me too. I'll go too. Let's go. We'll go to class together. We'll leave class together. We'll get beaten up together. 34 people walked out of the classroom. The last one to leave was the little fatty, Li Changming, who struggled to get up from the ground. Someone. Drag me. I want to go too. I want to go too. The little fatty, Li Chenglong, had tears in his eyes. At the entrance of the first class. Zhou Xiaoduo knocked on the door calmly and politely. The moment he knocked on the door, the greedy wolf's heart in his arms seemed to warm up slightly. Zhou Xiaoduo felt it but did not pay attention. Knock, knock. Who is it? Come in. Zhou Xiaoduo pushed the door open quietly with an innocent smile on his face. He bowed as soon as he entered. Hello, teacher. The head teacher of the first class was a middle-aged man with a thin face and an unusually tall figure. He looked at Zhou Xiaoduo in confusion. Who are you? What's the matter? Zhou Xiaoduo laughed and said, Teacher, my name is Zhou Xiaoduo. I'm a student of the 9th class. I'm here to look for Qing Fangji. I'm sorry to disturb your class. When they heard that he was from the 9th class, the expressions of the 50 people in the first class changed at the same time. Looking for Qing Fangji? What's the matter? The middle-aged teacher's smile became a little playful. It was normal for students to fight. However, the fact that his students had beaten up Qin Fangyang's students made him feel very happy. It's nothing serious. I just heard that his father is dead. Zhou Xiaoduo said with a smile, when I heard that Qing Fangji's father is dead, I felt that it was necessary to inform him. I'm sorry for his loss. Before Zhou Xiaoduo's voice died away, the face of the boy in the second position suddenly turned ugly. He suddenly stood up and said, Your father is dead. The one called Zhou Xiaoduo, are you here to seek death? Zhou Xiaoduo was furious when he heard that. He retorted, "How can you say that? I came to inform you with good intentions. It's fine if you say that you have good intentions, but how can you curse my family? You really don't have a good character." "Good intentions?" Cheng Fangji sneered. Zhou Xiaoduo took out his phone calmly and opened the lock screen. He pointed to a message on it and said, "Look, I heard that Cheng Fangji's father is dead. I didn't make it up. I really followed the script. I didn't change a single word." Zhou Xiaoduo raised the phone in front of him and said, "Look, everyone, look. Is this the content? I received such a message and was anxious. I came to inform you because we are classmates. Cheng Fangji, you actually scolded me and even cursed my family. What kind of logic is this? Teacher, the quality of your students is not good. Are you going to just stand there and watch? Are you really not going to do anything?" Zhou Xiaoduo's finger coincidentally pressed down on the sender's position, only revealing the specific content of the message. He quickly scanned through the crowd and then immediately put it into his pocket. He said with a smile, "Student Cheng Fangji, my purpose for coming here is very simple. I just want to tell you that your father is dead. My condolences. I'll kill you." Cheng Fangji couldn't hold back anymore. He jumped up, jumped into the air, and kicked Zhou Xiaoduo's head with a swift and fierce sound. Cheng Fangji's attack alone was not to be underestimated. Even the top three of the 9th class, Long Yusheng, Wanli Xiuyu, and Moyan, didn't dare to take this attack head-on. One wrong move and they would be defeated on the spot. If it was the Zhou Xiaoduo before the special training, facing this attack, he might not be able to dodge it. But now, Zhou Xiaoduo was not afraid at all. He first exclaimed, "You're attacking me." Then, he calmly lowered his waist into a horse stance, using the standard horse stance. Then, he slightly leaned his body to the side, twisting his body to avoid the attack. Then, he met the attack with a punch. However, his punch arrived first, landing heavily on Cheng Fangji's lower abdomen like a big hammer. This punch was simply exquisite to the extreme. Cheng Fangji's eyes bulged in the air. He felt as if his liver and intestines were cut into pieces. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. A large part of the dialogue was edited before it was sent. This chapter was almost rewritten. So, please recommend me, haha.